and welcome back to another episode of We Bought a Mic, podcast about movies, television, music, and youth. Sweet youth slipping away. Must it be reclaimed with a little substance? We're talking the new movie starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. But before we talk about the substance, we have a lot of other things to talk about. It's a catch-up episode. It's a chill hang. It's just the boys this time. We've had a lot of guests. I thought you were going
to say we've had a lot of girls. Too many.
Yeah, you could say
just
that.
The boys.
You could say that. I'm not going to say that. You could say that.
Yeah. Our numbers are rising. We got to put a stop to that. Our listenership is expanding.
And they were like, what can we do? We were talking about the substance. We should get 3 dudes on the pod to talk about this in depth.
Yeah, Leah's going to probably wander in here at some point and be like, I need to hijack this episode. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
I can only podcast once every 7 days, but I might be pushing it a little long. My name's Hunter.
And I'm Drew, and I'm going to get something out of the way up front. Ernest, I know you don't like where my microphone is right now. And I'm not going to move it.
You are blasting directly into it, perpendicular.
It's in a position that I've never put it in before.
It's an insane way to have your microphone set up right now.
You know, we're trying new things. We're experimenting. This is year 7 of the podcast. The anniversary flew by. It was like in August. So this is a bit of a late celebration here. Cheers.
Cheers.
We survived a hurricane.
We survived a hurricane. You survived something even bigger than a hurricane. A hurricane inside of you, and some might say.
I heard it described as a life quake, which I think is
who said
very
that?
apt. Folks in the community. I'm part of a club now.
Calling it a life quake sounds like an Ed Sheeran song. I don't know about that.
I did get a lot of good messages last week when I talked about my cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
I guess not last week, last episode. So thank you all out there who reached out. I will probably get into it more when I get a chance to watch the Florence Pugh cancer movie.
You're waiting for We Live in Time.
We Live in Time.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. I mentioned this last week. I am trying to get myself mentally prepared for that film. Some people have seen it. It's out in theaters right now. I didn't get a chance to see it before this episode, but that's gonna be a big one. Is how accurate 10 reasons why We Live in Time doesn't get the cancer experience right.
Number 1, she dies and I didn't. So what the hell?
You should do a CinemaSin style breakdown of well, this isn't my experience at all. So.
But yeah, I'm in remission.
Let's go. Let's give it up for our boy out here.
It's a
We're
good
really
time
out here
to be alive, to be here. As Adam Driver said in the film Marriage Story, being alive, being alive.
I thought you were going to quote some Megalopolis there. I really didn't know where you were going to go.
We need to have a great debate.
Yeah.
That was what cured you, right? Is having a discussion and inviting all parties to the table.
Exactly. Yeah. Megalopolis cured my cancer. Thank you, Francis.
He cured you with his
he injected fucking unobtainium into you. And
that's the real substance.
Yeah. I mean, it was either that or Venom: The Last Dance. That was my only hope. Is I had it circled on the calendar. This is if I don't get better by this point, it's over.
That you should have had a moment where you should have timed it better so that cancer could have left your body as the entity is leaving Tom Hardy's body in Venom: The Last Dance. The symbiote.
The symbiote is a very cancerous coded character. Yeah.
And it actually weirdly had the exact same side effects on you.
Right. Yeah. We became boyfriends.
Yeah. Okay.
We went to
Is that what those movies are about?
Did you not see?
I've never seen a Venom movie.
Let There Be Carnage.
No, I've never seen any of the Venom movies.
Oh man. Yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll go just straight to The Last Dance.
Venom is a gay icon. He is a queer icon. And in the second film, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, he goes to a gay club.
Wow.
And he's the life of the party. It's a great time.
Back to the club.
The club. All right. So we got a lot of things to talk about. Mainly I'm just going to recommend some things to you guys. I have a little rapid fire list of some TV that I've been watching. And then we have some movies to talk about as well before we get to our main review of the substance. I will have time codes in the description below if anyone wants to skip around. We've been getting some feedback about the overall structure of our podcast.
Who the fuck?
We've been getting some constructive criticism about our decision to sometimes talk about, I don't know, Tom Cruise for 2.5 hours and nothing else. And
boo.
Okay, Lee.
Boo to the haters.
But yeah, we're gonna try to do more episodes like this, squeeze a little more catch up here and there, to knock out some of these more current stuff and still keep the train going on the series that we love to do. And we are in the last little leg of our Tom v Tom series. So the first show that I want to shout out is called The Franchise on Max.
I didn't realize that this came out already.
The artist formerly known as HBO Max. I believe it is an HBO. They've kind of abandoned the Max original branding. I don't know if any show has that anymore. So I believe this is an HBO original. Another one that I'll talk about in a second is The Penguin. I think that's the same thing. It was like announced as a Max and now it's HBO because they decided to backtrack and like, what the hell were we doing? What were we thinking? There's a couple of great shows that got stuck in that little limbo. Station 11 probably being.
Yeah. Is it Hacks? Hacks is a Max original.
Is a Max.
Yeah.
Hacks is Max. Yes.
Hacks is Max.
Hacks is Max.
So the franchise is the latest from like the extended sort of tendrils of the Armando Iannucci world. So Jesse Armstrong famously came from that. It made Succession. Veep is also part of that. So this one, I think, do you have it pulled up? Oh, no, you don't. I forget who is the main guy on this.
John Brown.
Well, okay, so Sam Mendes is credited as being the director, but yes, it looks like John Brown is the showrunner created by. And then Iannucci also has some kind of involvement here. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I believe there is a third one out. It stars Himesh Patel, Aya Cash, Billy Magnuson in there.
Did I draft this?
I think you did in our hype draft at the beginning of the year.
Oh, this is my favorite show of the year.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen this show.
No. And the tagline is really bumming me out on the poster here. Lights, camera, anxiety.
So this show, I don't know what to really make of it yet, just watching the first couple episodes, but I think it has the potential to be really great and really smart. It's essentially kind of like a meta. It's a making of a movie. So it's kind of like a behind the scenes thing, specifically like a superhero Marvel DC type movie. And more specifically, it's not one of like the flagship Avengers movies. It's like the side Ant-Man movie. And it really shows all the things that go wrong behind the scenes of these productions in absolute hilarity. These are short episodes. These are half-hour episodes. And they really pack a lot of jokes in terms of like how many things could possibly go wrong in a given day on the set of one of these bloated movies where everyone has their fingers in it and you can't just make a normal movie. Everything's going wrong. Things are getting changed. Characters are getting cut. Entire subplots are being influenced by another movie. It's very true to things like Doctor Strange and The Flash, if you hear about the productions that went down on some of those movies. I think maybe the thing keeping it from being great is that it has to come up with something fake, like a fake movie. They can't say it's Aquaman. They have to, it's called like Tecto. It's a guy, he has like an invisible jackhammer. He can control tectonic plates. Very funny. But yeah, I think if you're looking for something that is very niche, that's very much about, you know, the industry, the machinations of how these movies get made and the weird shit that happens behind the scenes, I highly recommend it.
Good cast.
It's a banging
I love
cast.
the cast.
Yeah. Himesh Patel,
Yep.
our boy Levin Jeevan.
Yep.
He rocks.
From Station 11.
Ayakash rocks. Billy Magnuson.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He plays
great comedy actor.
He plays like the hero, essentially. The big Hollywood actor who's trying to be a flashy superhero headliner. And then Richard E. Grant is like the supporting, like, I guess, like villain character who's a more like a theater trained actor who's getting roped into this superhero bullshit.
I like that they have Daniel Bruhl in here, who's a great actor who got wasted away in these Marvel movies.
He plays the director, so he's like the indie auteur who's being handed the
That's
reins.
a really smart casting. That's good.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a soft recommend. I really don't have a handle on the full thing right now. I don't know how the full season is going to go, but just based on the first 2 episodes, I would say it's a solid little thumbs up. But just know that, you know, it is very niche. I think it only works if you know if you're familiar with how these things already work behind the scenes.
Well, I was curious. So is this something that like, is it for the fans, or is it something that like true like fans of things would be like almost offended by part of it, or just not get it?
I don't know. I think that's part of what I'm unsure in judging it.
What the audience is exactly for it. Okay.
I feel like part of me thinks that my parents would enjoy this show, and my mom doesn't watch any superhero movies, and my dad has hated the last few years of superhero movies that he's watched, like the latest Thor and Doctor Strange. He thought it was dog shit. So this might be great for him. He might get a big kick out of this. So it's like a broad recommend, but I'm not sure exactly who it's going to work well for. I got a lot out of it, but I'm also so plugged in that a lot of these things are either exact reiterations of things I know that happen behind the scenes, or they're not as crazy as like Ezra Miller on the run from the law. You know, like real life is actually a little bit crazier than what's been shown on this show. So that's the franchise. It's on HBO. Staying on HBO real quick. The Penguin comes from the Matt Reeves take on the Batman that came out a couple years ago. A great movie that we loved. Colin Farrell plays the titular Penguin.
Hunter's favorite animal.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're over the moon.
Oh, you know, I watched all of the second season. I skipped the first one though.
Already?
Oh.
Yeah.
So this show started out, I think it's in its 4th episode. It started out incredibly slow and boring. It's well made. It's well acted. I think the main 2 performances are great with Colin Farrell and Christine Milioti. But there wasn't anything there for me to really, and me coming from someone who loves Matt Reeves and loves the Batman, like the setup of me loving this show was like a layup, right? I just didn't find a lot to love in the beginning, but they just aired this episode that went fully into Christine Milioti's character. She plays sort of the heir of one of the crime families in Gotham, and it shows her entire backstory, and it sets her up as essentially more of the lead of the show than Penguin. I feel like the next half of the show might just give her the reins of the show and not Colin Farrell. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it seems like the season might have taken a bit of a turn and become a little bit more interesting, because so far I wasn't super into the Penguin, unfortunately.
How great is the last episode? Because it did the thing that's like, it's a marketing play at this point where somebody will post that it's like, oh, episode 5 of The Penguin has a 9.7 on IMDb, one of the highest rated reviewed episodes of television ever. Like, is it truly like a transcendent piece of TV, or is it just like
I didn't think
good?
So. I didn't think it was transcendent. I thought it was a great showcase for Milioti as a performer.
Mhm.
Like she's incredibly talented, and her character is the most interesting character in the show. But I mean, it's no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it in the pantheon of like, you know, The Leftovers or Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
I'm just like, I don't know. I keep seeing, because Max is advertising the shit out of it.
And a lot of people are watching it.
And I just kind of I've hovered over it a couple of times, but not really wanted to dive back in because I don't really know if what is the tone of the show? Is it trying to be serious? Is it having fun?
It is trying to be very serious.
Because the Penguin character is funny. He's
Right.
goofy.
Yeah.
Like Danny DeVito played the Penguin once upon a time. Like it should be a character in a show that can kind of laugh at itself.
Yeah.
Is that not what the show is?
No, I mean there are moments where Colin Farrell does get a little funny. You know, he was funny in The Batman.
Yeah.
The Batman is not a humorless movie.
It doesn't, well, not even funny, but having fun in it. Like I don't want it to be dour.
No, I thought it was boring.
Yikes. That's not great.
I would not
Not great. For our boy Colin.
I would
No.
not recommend The Penguin. I will keep tabs on the second half of the season to see if maybe this episode marks a considerable turn.
It's honestly too late. I'm already out.
Okay. And you're allowed to do that. You are allowed to be out.
Drew's already said he's watching one show this year. It's The Franchise. You're pot committed to that.
I am shocked though, in terms of slop and in terms of good old slop, I am shocked to report that better than The Penguin is Agatha All Along on Disney Plus.
I've heard like really good things about it. It's just fun. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it kind of just is.
Yeah. So this is a spinoff of WandaVision, which came out like 15 years ago. I have no idea when that happened. But yeah, the Catherine Hahn character of Agatha Harkness was a major part of that show. People loved it. People thought that it was a great little wrinkle to the story. There was a song too, Agatha All Along. And so they made a whole show centered around her. And when they announced it, I think it like took a while to get made. There were a bunch of reshoots or something. There were some, you know, in a very The Franchise type of model, this show probably went through a lot of turmoil to arrive, but it doesn't really feel that way. It feels like a very confident vision of what they're trying to do, and it is very much just this spooky, fun witch adventure. It's not trying to be anything crazy. It's not trying to advance the Marvel agenda in any way. You could watch this show without watching WandaVision, honestly. Like, it doesn't really expect you to know. The latest episode did pull a lot from WandaVision, which I enjoyed. I think it did it in a really fun way that didn't take itself seriously. If it did, it didn't do it in a way that it hindered the story. Basically what the show is there's a group of witches that are going down this road to uncover secrets and power. It's all the plot itself I don't think is very important. It's more so about every episode they encounter a new challenge and a new obstacle and a new adventure on their journey, and it's full of great sets and great costumes and music and just fun poppy color. There are, your obligatory like bad CGI set pieces here and there.
Gotta have them.
That kind of like, bring it down a notch. But if you're looking for something spooky, it is spooky season. This might actually be potentially the last episode we record before Halloween. So Spooktober is here. Very scary, very spooky. I'm scared.
I'm so fucking scared.
So Agatha All Along might be the show for you if you are totally out on Marvel shit and you want something like that isn't expecting you to be familiar with any of the MCU bullshit that has happened. It's a very straight down the middle, aiming for a single, aiming for a double kind of show. Very, very fun performances. Catherine Hahn is a queen.
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having a great time.
I'm happy for her. I hope that she got fucking paid for this shit. Because good for her. We absolutely love her. I was watching Step Brothers literally last night.
Oh my God, yeah.
She's just incredible. One of many things.
Fucking Catalina Winans.
Quite possibly like the best comedy of the 21st century. Yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that because I know whenever we did like our kind of vibe check for the fall, pretty sure I had like a 1 for this because I really thought that it was either, I didn't necessarily think this was going to like perpetuate the Marvel machine, but it was just like kind of one of those things I was like, it might be like a little bit too kiddie or like maybe either too winking, too knowing or too self-serious. And I'm glad to know that it seems like it kind of rides the line pretty well.
It's just fun.
You're just here for a fun time.
Which is just, that's all these things need to be.
Yeah.
You just need to put it on and like not really think about it too much and just have a good time.
How much is Patti LuPone in this?
She's
our other queen.
She is in it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Our other queen.
Like fully in it. She is great in it. One of the best parts of the show.
Love that.
So yeah, that's Agatha All Along.
Wait, Megalopolis is Aubrey Plaza's in here?
So she is also in it. I have a conspiracy theory about Aubrey Plaza and Agatha All Along. So maybe we need to turn on the TikTok camera right now if I'm uncovering something. I have a theory. There are sequences in one episode specifically in which all the witches are interacting with each other, and I am pretty sure that Aubrey Plaza is like
not
literally
there.
inserted into all of those scenes.
She's too busy being platinum wow.
Exactly.
So
it's wow platinum. What are you, like Korean or something?
No, I do platinum comma wow. Sorry, I speak. Yeah, I always say last names first. You know the spelling.
It's an honor thing.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but there were multiple scenes because all the other actors are like making eye contact with each other and like touching each other.
She's just like standing over there.
It's just like, hold on a second. Like no one has like looked at her.
Yeah.
She's just there.
She's dead the whole time.
And like, you know, like on the set, they're like, she really thinks that this fucking Coppola movie is going to do anything for her.
Yikes.
Means wow platinum.
That's Agatha All Along. It's a good time. I recommend it. Just, don't think too much about it. It's not trying to be a home run. It's just a double. I'm a baseball guy now. I'm very invested in the Mets. I heard that
they did lose. They are no longer in the playoffs.
I'm no longer a baseball guy.
That's too bad.
God, we had baseball Ernie for such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I was so excited to open up that segment. But unfortunately,
to like break in like game 103 and be like, all right, vibes check in. Where are you at, Ernest?
Should I go and get my Yankees hat? Should we restart the podcast and I just go full Yankees?
Sure. Yeah. I think that could go really well for you. I think that you should go full baseball guy. Like fucking movie guy who watches Moneyball once and just like, I think that I like the sport now.
Or I could just start talking about it on the podcast without watching any games.
I think that you would sound to us at least as smart as somebody who does regularly watch baseball.
We should have done, instead of doing this that we're doing right now, we should have done a full Joker episode without watching Joker.
Oh,
it's not too late. This is the power of editing
cut
right
this
now.
out.
Yeah, cut this. We need to save this as a bit.
That's really good.
Like when they start singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like I really was just blindsided. I didn't know they were going to go there.
When Joaquin just like took out his cock.
That actually, like
when they just play Fall Out Boy's Folie à Deux in its entirety for 48 minutes, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that they did that.
And we are like recommending it. Like we like it.
Yeah.
We want people to go see it.
The only guys that are
people don't get it because it's
Joker
twisted.
2.
That's the thing.
Twisted. Before we were recording, we were talking about Survivor. I won't go into it too much because you haven't seen it, Hunter. But if people want to subscribe to the Patreon, you can watch our little pre-record banter where I talked about Survivor. Pretty much not a great season so far, but we'll see. We'll see what season.
You guys can name names if it helps. I won't remember them, so it's fine. If you want to get off any kind of thoughts that you have,
I really don't have a ton of thoughts. It's a mistake to cast Survivor nerds, and it's all that they do now.
Yeah,
and it makes sense because that's who's going to apply And that's who's, also, I think the biggest mistake that they've made, especially this season, is that a lot of the people in this cast are either like, they're media trained people. Yeah. They're like, there's like a sports reporter. There's an esports announcer. Yeah. There's 2 people with podcasts. It's a lot of people that are
too many people with podcasts. Honestly,
the magic of Survivor is when you get someone like Caroline who has never been on camera and yet is the most compelling person ever on camera. You need to get raw, like untrained people. It makes life easier for the producers when they have these people who know how to.
It's all gold.
Yeah, when people know how to sit there and be like, things just got crazy,
and they've like been rehearsing, the sound bites that they're gonna have.
But that makes the show feel less real than it is. And for like a beginner getting into Survivor, that I'm sure you'd be like, why does this all sound so canned? And it's because like this guy's a sports reporter who watches Survivor, so he knows what they want him to say.
It's frustrating. I feel like it was like 42 or 43 that former Survivor contestant Tyson was on this whole thing about like, it sounded like everybody early on was just trying to get the name of the episode. And it's a thing that like, once you get that in your head, it's like, oh God, like every single thing that they're trying to say, they're just like, oh God, that rabbit came out of the wrong hole. And you're like, what are you saying? Like, you're just trying to make up fucking shit to get your name in the episode title.
It's still early on. I think it's only 5 episodes into the season.
First couple episodes do have like a legendary meltdown that I did love to watch.
Yes, Andy, I think is his name.
Really
amazing.
Really insane.
Yeah.
That was fun. But
otherwise, one of the weaker seasons of the hashtag the new era. Apply now.
We should get Naughty Nate on for once the season's over
for the wrap. Yeah.
Natural Nate.
As listeners know, from a couple weeks ago, I declared myself an Apple TV Plus shill. I'm a fan. I'm a capital F fan of Apple TV Plus.
By the way, least surprising turn ever for you. Yeah. That's so on brand for you.
Some might say that you've always been an Apple TV shill.
I was already one foot in the door with For All Mankind, but I am now fully Apple TV Plus pilled. I bought an iPhone. They got me. Okay. My Vision Pro is in the mail. Did you guys know that currently on the Apple TV Plus streaming service, a Alfonso Cuarón television show is currently airing. Alfonso Cuarón.
And it bangs, right?
A legend of cinema has blessed us with new work for the first time since 2018 when Roma came out. And nobody is watching it. Not a single soul. Some people are, and the people that are seem very lukewarm.
I was going to say, you are raving about it, but I've seen a lot of like very middling reviews about like, well, it's pretty, it's beautiful, but it's pretty hollow.
So here's the thing about disclaimer. I've watched the entire show. I watched all 7 episodes. I have screener access for the 3 that haven't aired yet. 4 have aired so far. There's 3 more. I don't want to say too much. I don't even know if I'm allowed to actually talk about the episodes that haven't aired yet, but I really connected with this show. It really worked for me. I hope I'm even allowed to say that.
You are. It's been like reviewed by, you can't say anything specifics, but
okay,
you can give your general thoughts.
The thing is that,
or you'll get all of your press accreditation or for everything. So
it's the way the story is told. It's extremely difficult to make an assessment of it without watching the entire thing. So these podcasts that are putting out episodes in the middle of the season or reviews, articles that are just talking about on a per episode basis, I don't think that they capture the entirety of what Cuarón is trying to do here. I think you need to watch the entire thing. I do think that it is unfair to judge this show on a per episode basis. It's a mystery. Here's the basic setup of what this story is. Cate Blanchett plays this woman who is very wealthy, very successful. I think she's like a documentarian or something. Sacha Baron Cohen is her husband. He's a bit of a cuck, you might say. A bit of a beta, you might say.
Okay.
Very nice.
he's a sommelier.
Nice.
And that's what he's mostly interested in. They have a son played by Cody Smith-McPhee of Power of the Dog fame.
Hey, nice.
Of
our boy
Ice Age fame.
Yeah.
Sorry, guy. It's it's an easy joke to make. You got to make it. I'm sorry.
He needs like that Family Guy joke about Uma Thurman. He needs an eye wrangler.
And he's a bit of a loser. His parents are really rich. They don't really, hang out with him too much. And one day a book arrives from a mysterious sender. And Cate Blanchett is very disturbed by the contents of this book. And slowly we find out that this book is recounting something that happened to her years ago. And there's two other storylines that we cut back to. So there's the main one with Cate Blanchett. We cut to Kevin Kline, who is this old man. Slowly we find out that he is the one who sent the book. His wife wrote the book. His wife is now dead. And he found a manuscript of the book in her room and he published it.
Now, do I want to know more, or is it going to start ruining it?
The third sequence is a flashback to what went down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you find out very early on.
Well, the way Cuarón does it is very expertly because he wants you to pay attention. These things are not overtly stated. You're just cutting in between the storylines, and across the first two episodes, it's if you're paying attention, it's very easy to put the pieces together. If you're giving yourself over to the show, if you're invested in it. I love that there are things about the show that are very overt. There is a voiceover narration. It's almost like you are reading a book. I think this is based on a book. So the narrator is kind of like this. Yeah, it is like the experience of reading a novel is listening to this narrator. The editing of it, the way that you're cutting in between these three storylines, it's a bit disorienting at first. So the reason why I went ahead and put the pieces together for people is because when I watched the first episode, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know who anybody is. Mm-hmm. I don't know who I should care about. I don't know why I should keep watching. What am I invested in? Like the show in that first episode, it doesn't give you enough. So I feel like that's why there's been a lot of lukewarm takes as it's been rolling out, because it doesn't make it easy for you at first. And then, in my opinion, I feel like it's very easy to put the pieces together if you are paying attention. There's a lot more that happens, and I haven't even given all the actual details of like what the story actually is, because it becomes very intense.
I'm interested in this one. I might, because I don't think I even have Apple TV right now, but I'm going to have to whip it back up for Severance.
Ooh, that's coming. That's January.
Here's the thing. If you have an iPhone and you're just like, hey, can I just like have Apple TV Plus? They're like, yes, please, of course.
Oh.
Apple just like wants people to use this service because nobody fucking uses this service. Mm-hmm. Like I just like got some more iCloud storage and they're like, here's another 3 months of Apple TV Plus. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess.
Morning show.
Yeah, please watch more.
Please.
Literally the morning show and Ted Lasso were the first two things that popped up because they're like, please, this is the only thing that people are ingesting.
My mom really wants me to watch morning show.
Why? Does she loves it. Does she legitimately enjoy it or does she like it for like the comedy?
No, she loves it.
You're gonna have to watch that and then check back in for us.
I think I might. Okay. If I'm the Apple TV Plus show.
Yeah.
But yeah, disclaimer. It is a lock for my top 10. It might be a lock for my top 5. So at this point, I think it might be a lock for top 3.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask, because you said like it's something that needs to be ingested to fully appreciate. Does it feel like a 5-hour movie?
Absolutely.
Or does it feel?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Well, because I didn't know like
7. It's like 7 hours.
7 hours.
Or whatever it ends up being.
See, because that's why I asked that question because there's a difference between something that feels cinematic, that it's like you're watching one extended movie, and then there's something like what's the show that came out a couple years ago from our boys, Lego guys.
The After Party.
The After Party, where the After Party is something that you do kind of have to watch all of it, but it feels very episodic. It feels like a television show.
Right.
I don't know if that's better that Corona's just making a 7-hour miniseries.
Maybe it should have been a binge. Maybe they should have just dropped the binge.
Yeah, because I know Apple is very against doing the binge.
Yeah, I think the trouble is that they are against the binge and they want to space this out to try to build hype for it. But the way these episodes are put together, the way the story is told, it is incredibly cinematic, and it feels like a single story that's been broken up. You gain nothing from stopping and waiting to see what happens next.
Okay.
That you just get frustrated because it's a mystery. You want to find out what happens. You want to get to the end of the mystery.
I mean, like, Severance is a little bit of a mystery, but Severance is something that feels more like a TV show that you can't just go.
You're checking in with your guys.
Yeah.
You know, you're dropping in with your friends. No, that's not what this is. And there's a lot to love here. I think the performances are incredible. Emmanuel Lubezki is here.
Are you scanning a QR code?
Yeah, I'm signing into to Apple TV Plus, but it's making me do a passkey. I'm looking at Apple TV Plus right now. Don't.
Hunter's playing the egg game. It's like
feed.
It's got a little push.
Oh, now it's working.
Yeah. Highest recommendation from me. 4 episodes are out right now. There's 3 more coming. I don't know people's viewing habits, but if you tend to watch TV shows with your parents, rethink this one.
Oh,
it is very sexually explicit. One of the most sexually explicit shows I've ever seen.
Wow, I wasn't picking that up based on anything you said so far.
Yeah, I didn't want to give away like more details than I already did, but
Kevin Kline getting in that pussy hole.
Tar. Yeah. So there's specifically the 2 episodes that just aired this week. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
More or less sex than wolves.
Oh, are Pitt and Clooney just raw dogging each other?
I have to assume so.
Hardcore?
I don't know. You're the Apple TV show. You tell me.
God, I need to see that. I kept forgetting that existed.
See, now I'm glad that you signed in so you could make that rip.
How? See, I couldn't have been able to make that joke if I didn't have wolves on hand.
How much of a failure is Wolves that they didn't even get me?
Yeah. Well, I think it's enough of a failure.
Ocean's 11 is like one of my favorite movies ever.
They, to try to drum up excitement for Wolves in the week of its release, said, official, Wolves 2 is coming out. And then after a week, they're like, never mind.
This was coming to theaters. No, it's not.
Just kidding. That and The Investigators.
Yeah, that's also Apple.
The
right?
Matt Damon, the Matt Damon, Casey Affleck. They still have not gotten movies right.
That's the thing.
I'm glad that they are like TV. It feels like they have really found a good niche. I feel like that they will end up getting absorbed by a Peacock or by a Paramount. Like there's going to be some kind of a merger that happens,
or they become like Sony, where they just license out. They don't have a hub. They just sell off.
But they can keep making TV shows. Spending however like many tens of millions of dollars for like Wolves and the Investigators that nobody is going to watch just feels like a money pit.
But they gave Ridley Scott money to make Napoleon, and they gave Scorsese to do Killers of the Flower Moon.
Were huge bombs. And I mean, it's cool. I'm glad that he did that.
I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon is incredible.
Killers of the Flower Moon is one of my favorite movies of the year last year. Yeah. Like, I love that movie. I just don't know what they're doing. I'm glad that at least they are still at least giving a home and making it work on the TV side of things, even if movies are still a little iffy. Maybe they'll get into co-pro stuff. Yeah. Like if they do merge with a Peacock, or a Paramount, then they can do like Apple produced being released in theaters through Paramount or something like that.
Well, you said that they've figured out TV. I mean, they have one of the most figured out TV shows I can think of, which is Slow Horses. Slow Horses just aired its 4th season, and it's the 4th season in 4 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world in which a season of TV is out every 12 months? What
was this, The Bear?
What is going on at Apple with Slow Horses?
Is it 6 episode seasons though?
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier.
So the fifth one's already done. It's in the can and it's renewed for the 6th. Guys, I fucking love Slow Horses.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't know if I remember telling you, Hunter, I don't know if I told you, Drew, this is basically if Mission Impossible was a bunch of like less than talented, kind of useless spies, more low stakes missions. It's less about Tom Cruise doing incredible stunts and more so Gary Oldman being a stinky, farty, smelly.
It's like if Simon Pegg didn't shower.
Right.
The Mission Impossible movies, like that's who we're focusing on.
And he was,
that sounds great.
Yeah. Sounds like a vibe.
It's incredibly entertaining, very, very watchable, just like sumptuous. You know, it just pulls you right in and it doesn't feel like a slog or like a burden or anything. It's just super, super well made, entertaining TV. This last season, I don't know if it was my favorite, but it was like on par with the other 3. I don't know. I think 3 might be my favorite personally, but they're all great.
There's only 4 books, it looks like. Is that true? Or maybe not. That might be wrong.
4 seasons. They've been cranking out the books.
Oh, okay.
The books are on like, I don't know. They're getting on like almost 10, I think. I don't know the books. But yeah, I got to give a huge shout out to Slow Horses. Super excited for season 5 coming next year. This one featured Hugo Weaving as the heavy, and he brought it. So yeah, love Slow Horses. Last thing I have on here before we move on is a new show on Hulu called English Teacher. This is a comedy. This is basically what happened after the strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Studios basically said, no more House of the Dragons. We are not accepting pitches for large scale productions. We need more Abbott Elementaries.
Mm-hmm.
We need something that is easy and cheap and incredibly like replicable production wise.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting English Teacher, which is basically what if Abbott Elementary, but no mockumentary style and high school instead of elementary school. So this follows an English teacher in Austin, Texas. He is a gay immigrant, and he is just trying to teach at this public school. And you have the cast of fellow teachers and staff at this school. One of the most surprising shows of the year.
I was shocked to find out about this show because Brian Jordan Alvarez, who made it and stars in it as the titular teacher, is most known in my household by just me as for years now on, I think, TikTok and Instagram. He has played a character where he puts a Chad filter on and speaks with like a heavy foreign accent. And like he's genuinely like gained notoriety doing this.
I might have seen this.
Well, now a lot of other people like copy him. Like they'll put on a Chad filter and be like, "Hello, bro, how are you doing?" But he's the originator as far as I know, and he's been doing this for like ages.
Wait, you're blowing my mind right now.
Isn't it nuts?
I did not realize that was him
because
the filter fucks up his face so much.
Yeah, it doesn't look anything like him.
I've seen so many of his TikToks. His TikToks are so funny.
Yeah, they are.
Sings and like does all these like crazy. Oh my god, you're blowing my mind.
He almost is playing like a fragrance guy type character.
Oh yeah.
Jeremy Fragrance.
Jeremy Fragrance is a king. Okay, I definitely have a guy has definitely sent me this guy before.
It's a really crazy filter. If people have seen, it's a guy who's like his face is essentially like fully like inflated and collapsed into itself. Wow. I can't believe I never made that connection.
Yeah, like that. He has a lot of followers from that.
Man, and now this guy's just getting Hulu money. Look at that.
The show is awesome. It's FX. Obviously, you know, they have the goods with the bear,
so
etc.
So it's different enough from Abbott to make sense that it also exists.
It's very Abbott coded.
Yeah, because Abbott is a phenomenon.
Yeah, it's very Abbott coded, but Abbott is very, very defined by that mockumentary style.
Yeah, it's Office.
Yes.
Yeah.
This show has been unburdened from what has been. This show, it feels so fresh and new and exciting because it doesn't have a shred of The Office in it. And I love The Office.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are cringe millennial advocates on We Bought a Mic here. Like, we love The Office. But at a certain point, you have to unburden yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just keep doing this.
Not just
shit.
Keep doing the derivative mockumentary shit. We've seen that.
I will always defend The Office. You know, Gen Alpha, Gen Z come at me. Well, I don't care that it's
There are
cringe.
still good versions. Like, look at What We Do in the Shadows is living in the wake of The Office.
Final season coming soon.
Yeah. But like, it is nice to have that. It is a little bit fresher.
Yeah.
It can just get back to just doing its own thing. It doesn't need to be quite as literally winking at the camera.
It just aired its final episode of the season. It's only an 8-episode first season. So super easy watch. These are incredibly short episodes, like 20 something minutes. So we'll see if a second season feels more like its own thing, like it's more unique, but it definitely feels very much in the wheelhouse of an Abbott, which is a great show, a show that I think has earned its place in like the modern comedy pantheon. It's like, it's still flying that flag of like network TV sitcom, you know, that has been dominated by like shit like you know, Big Bang Theory and whatever.
Yeah.
This is not in that space. It's just pulling a lot of DNA and doing something a little bit more unique. I think the main thing that has really impressed me the most about it is that it manages to insert a lot of serious topics and commentary about where we're at with public schools in general, you know, things like guns, things like, you know, just general struggles with public education and teacher pay. And there's all these more like serious topics that get inserted into the show, and it never forgets to be funny.
Yeah.
Whenever it has a scene that's about something serious, that scene is not in place of a joke. The joke is always the priority. It's actually an incredibly impressive balancing act, what the show is doing. And it makes it look easy. So I highly recommend it. It's English Teacher. It's on Hulu. I get it on Disney Plus because now that's all under the same umbrella.
Hey, big year for English teacher content between the show English Teacher and the band English Teacher put out one of my favorite albums of the year. This could be Texas.
So that's all the shows. Let's move on to movies. Hunter, you had a couple movies that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of a good transition there, and I could not think of something from English Teacher. But speaking of English, that's the language that Will and Harper Steele speak. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Run P. New documentary just came out. Will and Harper on Netflix. Have you guys? Neither of you guys have seen this yet, right?
No, but excited to know all about it.
This is based off of Will Ferrell and one of his like lifelong friends, Harper Steele, who wrote on SNL at the time whenever Will was there, like from a really, really beautiful like golden era of SNL from like the mid 90s through 1995 to 2008. She wrote on SNL, and about 2 or 3 years ago, transitioned into being a woman. And Will Ferrell, like after working with her, spending all this time with her professionally and just getting to become very good friends with her, they wanted to find a way to kind of reconnect after post SNL, like going off, living their own lives, doing their own thing, reconnect a little bit while also giving Harper this ability to kind of go back to a lot of places that she used to go to all the time in her past life and revisit now as this new version of herself. So it's a road trip movie with the two of them. So you get to see Will Ferrell just doing Will Ferrell bits, just being like genuinely like one of the funniest people ever. Like it just, if you just see him, his natural ability to just like spark conversations with people and just like draw humor out of it.
He's not doing a character.
Yeah, he's not doing a bit.
It's just Will.
And he does kind of talk about like in his like while he's doing it, like just like normally he's a pretty like quiet, reserved guy, but also he just has that like magic switch that the best people in comedy have, that he's able to be the funniest guy in the room at any given moment if he wants to be. It's really great. It's much more, it's not really a comedy. There's definitely some funny moments that they have because not just Will, Harper, I mean, she wrote on SNL for like over a decade. She's also a very funny person, but it's much more about like what the trans experience is like and kind of living this your whole life. Harper is in her 60s, I want to say. Yeah, born 61. So in her 60s and just now making this huge life change, like she had a wife, she had kids, she had this whole other life. And like you do get to kind of talk with her kids at one point and they just like are like, I'm glad that
adult
like,
kids.
Yeah. They're like, I'm glad that they are now living their best life that they should. But like it is a thing where there's obviously a lot of, I don't want to say like regrets, but there's a lot of just like thinking about like how much of my life did I let get past me just wearing
the time
a mask.
is gone.
Yeah. And all that you can do now is try to live that up. But also like Harper talks about like in her last life, she just like loved to go to just like sleazy dive bars in middle America and just go out to pool halls and drink shitty Keystone Lights and stuff like that. And it's like, you can't do that if you are a trans woman just going into like some bar in the middle of nowhere in fucking Oklahoma or whatever the hell.
Right.
And there is a point like where whenever this is happening, like they're out there, they're making posts on like social media and stuff like that. And people are just nasty about it. Like there's one point where they go to a place, light spoilers, I guess. They go to a place in Texas. I don't remember what the name of it is. The place where you eat the 72-ounce steak. And if you eat it within an hour, it's free. It's like a big famous place in Texas, but
72.
It's a 72-ounce steak, 2 sides and like a drink, in an hour. If you eat it all, the Big Texan is what it's called. And so like the Big Texan posted on their social media site of like, look at Will Ferrell and his friend Harper Steele are here and everything like that. And there's like a lot of dead naming. There's a lot of misgendering and a lot of stuff like that. And you see people that are posting on internets, they're just like,
are they doing it intentionally, maliciously though?
In some instances, yeah. In some instances, you can definitely tell like that there is a lot of like,
because I feel like part of the power of a documentary like this is to try to shed some light on the gray area of this situation and provide grace for people that might struggle to accept it without painting them as like evil.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like that. It does do a really good job of what you're talking about, where there are some places where there are people who just flat out are like,
it's hard,
very hateful people and like just have a lot of hate in their heart and are not accepting of others because they look or act different from them. But there are some other places where like Harper will go into a bar and you can tell that like immediately everybody is looking at her a certain type of way. But then like as they're kind of sitting in there, then it's a thing where they're like sitting there talking. It's like, oh, you're just like me. Like you're a funny person. We can just like sit here and kind of like laugh and do whatever. And it's like, there's really no difference one way or another. And that's one of the important things about having like Will there too, because it is one of those things where people are, it's like this crutch that you can have in this situation of like, nobody's going to be mean and hurtful to you in real life if Will Ferrell was right there. At one point, they go to a Indiana Pacers game, and then they find out after the fact when the governor of Indiana comes up to them and is just like, "Oh yeah, nice to meet you," whatever. That the Indiana governor is like very, very transphobic and homophobic and like all this kind of stuff, and like shook her hand and then just like is going to go on and say all this stuff.
This is not Mike Pence.
It's not Mike Pence. No.
Holcomb, Eric J. Holcomb.
There we go. That's the
go to
the
hell,
bastard.
sir.
Yeah, no, I think that it's easily, I think I haven't watched a ton of documentaries this year. It's the best documentary I've seen of the year.
You think it's a lock for a nom?
A lock for a nom.
The Oscars.
Yeah, I would say it's a stone cold lock for a nom. I think I was trying to look on Gold Derby to see if they put up odds on where it's at. If I had to guess, I would say it's one of the front runners. Netflix always just historically does really good in documentaries. They know how to sell this shit.
And it's not about Will Ferrell. I think that helps it.
It's not about Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
I think that helps it from a critical standpoint, but it also helps it from a commercial standpoint that Will Ferrell is in it. So,
right. But I mean more so from like who's voting at the Oscars.
Yeah.
A lot of times if it was about Will Ferrell, they wouldn't want to vote for it. I'm excited to check it out.
It's very good. I mean, Harper Steele is like a genius. Like she is a really, really funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say
like a genius person in comedy.
Yeah, like a stone cold legend.
Yeah.
She comes up a lot in the Lonely Island podcast.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Which I'm now caught up on and recommend if you have space in your heart for two podcasts. Obviously,
it's called the Lonely Island Podcast.
Maybe the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast,
which is like, I mean, it's kind of fucked up because we always talked about just doing a podcast series where we would go through every Lonely Island sketch, and they just beat us to it.
What a bunch of idiots!
Yeah.
We almost
I
had
think
it.
that we're more well qualified for it too.
And it was going to be called the Lonely Island Watchers and Hunter Mobley podcast.
Have they talked about Popstar yet? I need to tap.
It's got to be way later.
That's gonna
right?
that's gonna be like the last thing they do probably. They're like,
oh yeah, because I guess they haven't done anything since. I guess Chip and Dale. Are they gonna do a Chip and Dale episode?
Maybe
they're not even halfway done through digital shorts.
Oh, that's it's gonna be a while. So they're going like literally short by short per episode.
And really it's more like episode by episode. They talk about all the sketches that they can remember being involved with, because Seth also wrote like half of the stuff that was on SNL back then.
What else is Seth doing?
I still have my working theory that I think he's going to take over for Lauren after this year.
I think it's him and Tina.
I think.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen after this year, because apparently Lauren is very much like,
I'm not fucking leaving.
Yeah, he's going full Succession mode of like, I will die while fucking doing casting calls for SNL.
The only thing is you can tell that Seth does like attention, so I don't know if he would be willing to give up being on TV.
You know what Lee said? She said, that guy has a big forehead. Get him away from me.
Yeah, so that's the thing. This is
I was trying to put on some clips and she was like, what is that?
Wait, Seth?
Yeah.
What?
So I'm not joking. This is another thing about, so he is, he's really good. He's great on the podcast. The way that he looks has changed.
Right. I think he might be wearing a headpiece a little bit.
If he should
scooch that fucking thing up.
No,
because it's back. It looks like Nick Sandberg when he's Nick Cage, and the hair's like back here, but also tall. Like my friend needs to take a trip to Turkey. He is just
okay. We got to get the LeBron treatment.
He's no longer visually palatable. And late night TV is less and less relevant.
The show itself is like a husk. Like he lost his band.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
He lost the band. He gets to, it's because he, you know what I mean? Like he gets to operate basically for free in that studio. Like, it's just so easy.
Yeah.
It's
just a hangout.
Yeah.
I feel like eventually he'll go down. Does he have like the thing where I know he's still like weekly, he's still daily, but he has the thing where he has like 4-month vacations and shit like that. Is he one of those?
Probably.
I know that a lot of those late night hosts now just.
I know you have a couple more things, but can we do a quick diversion into SNL? So SNL 50 is airing right now. I've watched every episode. I think they've done 3 episodes. It was Gene Smart,
Nate Bargatze.
Oh, yeah. Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande. I haven't seen the Keaton one that just aired yesterday.
I think the Ariana Grande one is by far the best of the four.
I actually think, and this is not just coming as somebody who is an Ari stan that I've talked about before. I think Ari is like a top 5 modern host of like the.
I was shocked. Oh, she's awesome.
I was shocked how good she was.
She's so good. All of her episodes, she is very good. She's very talented at like doing not just like, especially not now that they know that like she can act and she is very funny. She's been an actor for longer than she's been a singer.
Yeah. Everyone who used to be a child actor is good on SNL, like Gosling.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, they live and breathe it. They know how to like,
easy for them.
They know how to blend in with like a crew that they don't even know.
They know they're always very game to just be in like as many sketches as possible, which is great. Like what you hate to see is like when it's just like The Rock is hosting and it's like he's going to be in 2 sketches this week. Like, why is he even there? But I think that this season overall has been really good with like some disclaimers. Not Apple TV Plus content, but just with some disclaimers that like is very much that I don't really know any of the new people that are on SNL because
there's too many of them.
Too many. It's way too fucking big, and because it's the combination of it's the 50th season and it's election year.
Yeah.
We're just getting like
Sandberg's just on the show.
Just there every
Maya obviously like
Maya's doing.
It was a really strange move to. They dropped one person, they added 3 or 4. It's a really strange move to do that when you know you're going into a season that's going to be just fucking full of cameos.
Dana Carvey crushing in as Biden.
Yeah, Dana Carvey, who's incredible, but also it's funny because it's like Dana Carvey was just like, I'm going to do Biden, but like while I'm here, I'm going to be in 3 other sketches this week.
The Jennifer Coolidge,
the Maybelline one,
so good.
Because the thing is also, if you're a writer on SNL and like you know Dana Carvey's there, you're like, I could write a sketch for Dana Carvey or Jane Wickline. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which, by the way, Jane Wickline's one of the new people. She comes from TikTok. So she brings like a unique following. She hasn't done great so far.
Her things have been like, I'm doing like a fun song on Weekend Update and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that.
That was so uncomfortable.
I enjoyed that actually, but her sketch acting is not going well because that's not what she really does. Got bad reviews from my mom.
But this is Gen Z's version of Kyle. Like this, they're probably a huge audience ready to see someone soar, and then it's like, it doesn't work.
Yeah, here's the thing: Kyle wasn't great immediately on SNL. Now we were just
was he ever?
Give him time. Yeah.
I feel like Kyle wasted like years of his life on SNL. I feel like
it wasn't wasted because he made the Lorne connection. Lorne has taken him under his wing.
And what has happened?
Y2K to be TV at some point. Brigsby Bear wouldn't have happened without that.
I guess we got Brigsby Bear.
We got the Saturday night.
Be happy with that.
Saturday night.
That I would genuinely.
The
Netflix
show. You think that happens because he's on SNL?
Nobody was watching Good Neighbor stuff. Like it was us. Like you have to understand. Like this is the best.
They had a show ready. They had the Good Neighbor show
on Comedy Central.
One season of that show would be better than everything you ever did at SNL. Like it is a bummer. I think that generally speaking, from a quality standpoint, like cameos be damned and like relevancy because it's 50 years. I think this is probably the best SNL has been since probably 2013.
I agree.
Sounds right.
I was under the impression that it was truly on the way out. Like things were so bad.
You were convinced that like they were just going to pull the plug on the whole thing.
It had fully stopped mattering in a way that I never thought I would experience. And obviously the cameos do make it matter more, but also this started last year. There were some real signature sketches. Sarah Sherman has been a huge addition to the show.
Yes.
She's fucking awesome.
No, her sketch that she wrote during the Ari episode, that was very clearly was a Sherman sketch, was the My Best Friend's House one that just devolves into like insanity of he might be a murderer.
That was a really good one.
And that was like 100%. You could just sniff that out that was definitely one of her sketches.
They've even figured out exactly what to do with Jost and Shay, which was for a while, it was really like we did not want to swallow the Jost pill. It was years of us being like, I will not drink that. I will.
Scarlett though, she's gonna swallow
absolutely.
The Joe's pill.
But they figured out the joke swap thing where they just started doing it more and more and more, where it was like they did it once at the season finale for a couple years, and then they were like, this is the only thing that ever goes viral from Weekend Update. So then they just do it more and more, and they realize that like the more uncomfortable you seem to make Jost, the more likable he is, because otherwise he is way too comfortable being just like a douche, because that's what he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, just knowing that he is being pushed to say this by someone else.
No, exactly.
It doesn't matter if you know or you don't know that, Che is the one doing it. That doesn't even matter, because they're probably bringing in the whole writer's room for some of them.
Oh, of course. They're not actually. Yeah. But it works really well. Even because I really have not been a fan of Mikey Day, but he does every now and then he writes a sketch that really works. Like I would bet my life that he wrote the Beavis and Butthead sketch, which was like,
oh my God,
it was so funny.
That was so good.
Yeah, like so even he like has a place here, but then you have these other white dudes that I didn't think would stick, like Andrew Dismukes. Andrew is really funny.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Andrew is a funny guy.
Yeah, and then you have
Marcelo Hernandez.
I was gonna say,
Marcelo
and then
Hernandez
you actually
runs.
have like legit funny sketches with different cultural viewpoints coming in. Like Marcelo, he did the Telemundo, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
he did Telemundo.
Sábado Gigante.
Yeah.
That was the Bargatze app, right?
There are shows that are actually like that.
Yeah.
Like if you just turn on Telemundo or Univision, like there is a guy who's just like, and then they start dancing and you're like, I don't know.
I don't know what the fuck is happening.
I used to watch Sábado Gigante and be like, what in the fuck? But yeah, and then they've also figured out like a new slew of regular hosts.
Yeah,
like you said, Grande. Nate Bargatze is going to be on every year, I think.
Dude, Bargatze's so good, man. He's like the George Washington sketch is like one of like they're just a thing really that they can just keep going back to just doing that bit.
Yeah,
it's a well that does not run dry.
And he's one of those people that is truly gifted in delivery, and so like anything that you write, he will do a good job with it. So he made a great sketch out of that water slide sketch. Did you see that one where someone died on the water slide?
Yes. That's a good one.
Yeah, because that's one that if you have a bad host, it's just like, oh God, this is going on for like 6.5 minutes and nothing is landing.
Yeah, and there was a while where it was like, like they would have people who were great on every now and then. Like Emma Stone isn't quite every year, but almost. But it was like, who's Justin Timberlake right now? Like who's coming in, and you're like, event television.
Mulaney, he's coming. That's the next one. They're taking this week off, and then are they taking this week? Yeah, they are. So next Saturday, the Saturday before Election Day, it's Mulaney and Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
Gangbuster.
That's a banger.
That's a blockbuster.
That's going to do like insane number for whatever numbers SNL even makes.
Every single bisexual household is tuned in.
For both sides. Really. Yeah. We're just all in on both. Yeah. Huge day for us.
That more or less viewership than the total box office for The Apprentice. What are we thinking?
More controversial.
Chappell.
Yeah,
Chappell on SNL.
Yeah, Chappell. Her takes are actually more controversial than the takes on The Apprentice. I do just want to also say, like I've watched the Domingo Espresso sketch like several times in the last 2 weeks since the Ariana Grande one.
That's the wedding song.
Yeah. Second location. Maybe he's bi, fully touching Domingo. That's a really, really fucking funny one.
Does Sebastian Stan do his own espresso as Trump?
Yeah.
The Apprentice?
Yeah, give it another go as transit. Cut the first one. That's way, way better, Ernest. Thanks.
Does Jeremy Strong?
He actually does espresso as he's doing a rape. The Apprentice.
Does Jeremy Strong say no, please is the better track? And then he's like, I like those hand movements. I might start incorporating them into my speech pattern.
So you're talking about the hand movements, and we can go straight there.
I haven't seen this movie. You've seen it. You got to tell me.
Here's the thing about The Apprentice, a movie that I have seen. It's like a thing that I'm almost like split brain about The Apprentice. I did say immediately after seeing this, Ernest, do not watch this movie until after November 5th.
Okay.
Because I think that it is
walk
something
into
that,
traffic.
Yeah. Because on one hand, it is like a very, very well-made movie with like two incredible performances in it. It's made by Ali Abbasi, who I've never seen any of his other work that he's done. He primarily is like a foreign filmmaker. He's worked, I believe that he is a Turanian, I want to say. But I could not help but like think in the back of my head while watching this, like the Adam McKay version of this movie.
The Vice.
And it's would be like the worst thing ever made. Instead, like this is much more trying to be like a little bit grittier, a little bit nastier. It's not, there's no like ifs, ands, and buts about like, is this Donald Trump guy okay at the end of the day? But like really what it is about is it is trying to almost have the Breaking Bad story of Trump and how he got to be there. Specifically through the Roy Cohn character played by Jeremy Strong. It really kind of starts as a two-hander, and then Sebastian Stan kind of takes over in the latter half of the movie as Roy Cohn begins like literally dying. If you know anything about real life Roy Cohn,
spoilers
you know that,
for reality.
He's like just a truly evil guy. Like there are no like good guys in this, and if anything, one of the vices of the movie, one of the pitfalls that runs into is that for like the sake of making a story, it kind of has to paint Roy Cohn as a little bit of a sympathetic figure as we enter the third act here, just because it's like Trump taking all of the lessons that he learned from Roy Cohn and now using them fully against him of like, if you aren't worth anything to me, then you're dead to me, all these kind of things, even though that like Roy Cohn, according at least to the story of this movie, made Trump who he is. So where on one hand, it is very well executed. It's a very watchable movie. Like it does kind of breeze through. It's also that thing where it's like, it's a little bit too close to reality. And like, I don't even know, like,
and we know
when you could make this.
We know it's bad. We know, like,
you know it's bad, but it is one of those things where it's like, it is still watching a train wreck. And like in that way, I still could not look away from it. But the train wreck was flying into the country that we all inhabit. But like you're seeing even little things where they're talking about like lessons that Roy is teaching Donald about just like deny everything. You never lose. You always win. Never let them tell you that you're a loser. Always just deny. Keep saying that you're a win. And it's like all of these like lessons that are being taught that then he writes into his book and then enacts as the president. And we're like, why isn't he accepting the results of losing the election? And it's like, well, probably because he told us his entire life that he would never accept defeat for anything.
Excuse me, sir. I don't think you're allowed to do that. It
shows him like a lot of his, because a lot of it's more so focused on real estate mogul Donald. Like that is the version that we're seeing. The central crux is building Trump Tower in New York and how it was this whole thing going into where it was in 42nd Street, which at the time, whenever they're taking over, 42nd Street was the absolute shithole in New York. It was before like a lot of the New York crime and everything else got cleaned up.
Is that like Times Square?
Nearby. Have you never been to Trump Tower in New York? It's
that's where Trump Tower is.
Yes. You've never stayed at Trump Tower.
You've never stayed?
It's crazy, Ernest.
I have a picture of me giving the middle finger to Trump Tower right before
cool.
the 2016 election.
That's cool.
That didn't work.
Really thought that was gonna do the trick.
I really thought that.
You really thought that was gonna do the trick, huh? No, so that's like kind of the central thing, and everybody telling him like you're like this is a stupid idea. You shouldn't do this. Like this is a bad investment thing. And in a lot of ways, like he was right. He bought in at like the pits of real estate and made it into something good. And it's about him continuing to double down that and double down that and double down that and like buying all this spot in New Jersey and everything else. And people are like, hey, Donald, you're defaulting on loan after loan. You're fucking broke, Yikes. My guy. And he's just like, nope, I'm not. You're a liar. Yeah, no, not true. Fake news. And so on one hand, it's showing a lot of these things that are just kind of, you see the seeds that became the Donald that we know today. But also, I don't always want to look at those seeds. It feels bad a lot of times. Yeah. It doesn't matter how incredible a performance Sebastian Stan is giving, which I will say, what he is doing is like so calculated. And it's one of those things where it's not just, he's not doing Alec Baldwin as Donald Trump. Like, he's not doing a caricature. Especially like as the movie progresses, you see a lot of his facial tics just start to happen, and he starts to talk a little bit more with his hands, but it's gradual, like how he actually reaches that point.
Does he do the dance?
He doesn't do the dance.
I'm doing the dance.
He doesn't do the dance. He doesn't do the dance, and he doesn't go to McDonald's. But it really is incredible work. And I mean, it should kind of go without saying, but Jeremy Strong is giving like just one of the best, like pure, like actorly performances of the year. Do you think
he gets the nom?
I don't think so, because I think that this movie is
too small.
Well, I think that this movie is really going to struggle to find an audience, because Trump fans don't want to watch it because he has like despised this movie and came out harshly against it.
He tried to stop the release.
Democrats don't want to watch more Trump content.
Everyone wants to just be rid of this fucking guy.
It's kind of one of those things where like it's almost unfortunate in some ways that Jeremy Strong is giving like this much of like almost like a Victorian acting style performance. Like, he is going so much, especially like as the movie progresses. For those of you, spoilers for The Apprentice and
for real life.
So Roy Cohn died of AIDS. Like, everybody was said like he died of like liver cancer and everything. But like the point this movie is trying to make, and a lot of people made for a long time, is that Roy Cohn was gay. He was a homosexual for like his entire life. And his partner, it is like 100% confirmed, like his like roommate for life, assistant, whoever, like died of AIDS. And he also definitely
Donald Trump.
If only, right?
So in this movie is Donald and Roy sort of driving across the country.
Yeah.
And like Donald's learning
Donald
about
transitioned
Roy.
to being president.
It's like Green Book, but for a gay guy.
No, I
do they go to what drag show?
They do not go to a drag show. No, there's a lot of homophobic slurs said by Jeremy Strong in this movie, but he gay, so it's okay.
Damn.
Yeah, it is like an undeniably good and well-made movie that is difficult to watch at times. Oh, I gotta also give a shout out to our girl Maria Bakalova from Borat 2, who plays Ivana Trump. She is very good with very limited screen time and very limited script work. She doesn't really have a whole lot to do, but she is very good in the performance with what is given to her. But
nice. Well, do you think this movie does better or worse if he loses or wins? Like, what do you think is the next? Like, we are 2 weeks out from Election Day. I voted today. I circled my little bubble in front of it said Harambe. I believe
I heard that you wrote in Kanye.
That was the one. It said Harambe parentheses not genocide.
Oh, okay.
So I circled that one.
Okay, good.
I'm hoping that solves all the problems in the world.
Yeah. I have like a thing that I like voting on Election Day. Right. I don't know why. I maybe it's because the woke media has got to me, but I'm like, if I vote early, they aren't going to count my vote. They're throwing them out.
The libs.
Yeah, the only the libs vote early. They're going to toss them out. No, I actually think that this movie, it will be dead in the water if Trump wins. Like I think
fully
that there's like people will like want to put this thing under dirt if Trump wins.
I think that the way is really smart.
I think that it could be revisited in like not even this year. I think it could be revisited in like 5-10 years from now if Trump like fucking goes away or dies tomorrow.
I mean,
and then
there's
don't
gonna
have
be
to deal
more
with this
Trump
anymore.
movies, I guarantee you.
But I mean, and you are right about that. And like, I think that this actually sets like a higher bar than I was.
There's going to be some terrible ones.
Well, yeah, but we're going to get the Reagan of Trump movies.
This is like
starring Dennis Quaid as Trump.
A movie where their reception depends on like a major event happening or not happening,
and happening so close to like the movie coming out.
It's like if if a couple years ago we all thought that like a nuclear bomb might hit America, and so everyone's like, I don't want to see Oppenheimer right now.
That's actually
That's super interesting. Like, so maybe come like December, people will be like, were we too harsh about The Apprentice?
I mean,
my column
could see. The thing is that I won't think it's going to happen this year because we're not going to stop hearing from Trump for months after the election.
That's a good point.
Like, we're still going to be fucking sick of this. We're still going to be seeing his ass everywhere denying.
Yeah, it'll be once he's like dead.
That's what I'm saying is that like maybe 5-10 years from now, or like when he's fully dementiaed out and we can't keep.
I mean, can we get one fucking like incel who doesn't miss for fuck's sake?
They told Gaga she couldn't sing. They told her she had to sing badly. Many people are saying that she was robbed of her talents.
That's pretty good. Even watching a lot of Trump, I can see
it's so good you should cut it.
Yeah, you should do that. For like socials, right? Like cut it for socials. I will say, man, this movie
Todd Phillips is a king.
That'd be really funny if Todd Phillips comes out and is just like, and I stand behind Donald Trump. Trump comes
they
out.
said paging Dr. F word. You can't say that anymore.
I personally would have cast Sabrina Carpenter. She would have been great in the role.
Yeah. She's an Aryan princess. We like that.
She's got a great ass. Many people would say so. I personally wouldn't. Many people would say.
Sebastian Stan, he's very well put together in the shower. We've all seen it.
Wesley Snipes was not great as Blade in Deadpool and Wolverine. He was much better in the original. Vampires should be more horny. I'm always saying this.
I'm saying this. Everyone knows this.
Blade not horny enough.
We're kind of losing the voice a little bit. The affectation is there, but I don't know what that voice is that you're doing. It's like some people are saying you're going like a full like a Jewish woman who's like smoked like 2 packs a day and lives on the Upper West Side. So we're still New York, but we aren't quite there anymore.
Would you like a little extra salt on your French fries?
Okay.
I was going to say I have this on my priority watch list on Letterboxd. It is in the 3rd row.
Okay, so
I think 2 rows worth of movies on top of it. Here's the thing:
as a Jeremy Strong super fan, I think it is worth seeing.
Okay,
and as we're in Sebastian Stan corner, right? We have some stock in Sebastian Stan Island.
There is a bit of a moment happening right
now. Post Itania, I think Itania we all bought in, right?
I mean, between this
wasn't that like 2017?
Yeah, I never sold. Yeah. I held.
I mean, I needed money.
Well,
I sold
part of the shares, but I held on.
I'm waiting for Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Well, I think I might sell before that hits. I gotta say, this movie is in the Hall of Fame of the Family Guy bit where they go to the movie theater and they're just saying like the 27 production studios. I feel like there was like I want to look this up right now because I feel like there's like 12 production studios that had a hand in this thing coming out. It was just like,
Wikipedia lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I wasn't joking when I said 12. It literally shows a logo for each one of them before it comes up. And I was like, all right, movie's starting. Well, and no, some like a bird comes flapping in.
Some of these are for international.
It's like bird with one limp wing media. Yeah. And you're like, what is
Have you seen that? The Family Guy cutaway.
That's literally what is happening right here. It's incredible.
The movie that I have directly above this on my Letterboxd list is the next movie that you had written down.
So the next movie, because I would say that The Apprentice is like, if you are interested in the topic or in the people involved, it is worth your time. Maybe if you are very close to the election, you should maybe wait until after then. Give it 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to simmer down
It'll
when
be
we're
on
all
streaming.
when we're all like Kamala out. This next one, I would invite everybody to go see as soon as possible. And that's because it's one of the best movies of the year, and that is The Wild Robot. So this is it's based on a children's book, which I've never read the book. I'm not like familiar with it. It was not one that was in my household as a kid, but the movie going into it, I did know that it's made by like a true heavyweight of animated movies. It's made by the guy who is most notably probably wrote, directed, and is the voice of Stitch in Lilo and Stitch. Chris Sanders. Yeah.
Damn it.
This is also the guy who wrote the story for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Mulan, How to Train Your Dragon. He wrote and directed The Croods. Like, this is like a true
The voice of Stitch.
Yeah.
What?
Chris Sanders. I'm telling you, he is like truly like.
Are people talking about this?
I don't know, man. I feel like people know him as like a big animated guy, but maybe don't know him as he is quite literally the voice of Stitch. So my man stays being paid forever.
I used to have a really good Stitch, and I don't think I can.
Can you bust that out? You gonna take that again, or is that good?
No, I don't have it right now.
So The Wild Robot. This is, I think that it is probably about on par for me with something like Spider-Verse, no. Well, I'm just talking about like fully taking advantage of the medium of animation. Like, so many things that you watch that are animated movies just feel so flat, and they feel like something that, especially in the modern day and age, could be live action in some kind of way. The Wild Robot is something that is fully embracing the art form and is more interested in sometimes making things that are more stylistic and more abstract than necessarily like realistic, while also still showing things that are very like realistic. Like, there's some absolute beautiful nature in here. It is like the best use of nature that I've ever seen in an animated movie before. It is gorgeous. It's at its core a really, really beautiful story about, a lot of it is like nature and how like kind of nature and life will always persevere and will always win out in this struggle that we are having with technology, but really is mostly about motherhood and about parenthood, and how we are all just kind of like making things up along the way.
The robot is the
life.
mother, or
Yes.
the animals?
The way that it starts is the robot, Lupita Nyong'o's character Roz, gets washed up onto a beach somewhere, like this empty shore that's basically this completely uninhabited island. This is taking place at some point in the distant-ish future. So it's washed up on this land where there is just nature. There are no humans inhabiting this world or anything. Okay, there we go. All right, that was something. Were you just like over there, like off mic, like punch?
Yeah, my face was turning like purple, like shaking.
That's a pretty good Chris Sanders.
Have you read the book? It's like a kid's book, right?
No. That's what I was saying. Is that
like
this was picture. Not in my household as a child.
I think it's new. Isn't it newer? Like, we might have missed out on it. I think it's for like,
Hunter was reading children's books until like a few years.
Until like last night. I just stopped last night, guys. First day sober.
Are the kids' books now just saying like the Rizzler? Like,
it's like, ooh, the enchanted iPad. The enchanted iPad put on Baby Shark all by itself.
Yeah, this is literally from 2020.
Oh, so
wow, that's
I must have just missed that one. No, I for some reason I thought that was based on something older, but maybe not. No, but basically what happens is this robot washes up to shore, and like a lot of the movie, like, this is not a movie that's afraid to show death in a way that I kind of appreciated. At first,
animal death.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, like, not like it's animal death in like almost like a circle of life kind of way of like, this is what life is that like animals are all here and we are here to hunt one another. Like it is
a natural part
cycle
of the
here.
I'm really impressed that this is good because really, you know, you get inundated with trailers for animated movies and like
a lot of dog shit.
Well, it's also kind of just a crapshoot. Like you really can't, like I couldn't have predicted that this would be a great one based on the trailer alone. So I think it's important for people to know.
Well, and I never even saw the trailer. DreamWorks honestly did not advertise this as much as I think that they could have.
I think we caught a trailer when we were watching Survivor or something.
I was going to say I got it on TV a lot,
but not in movie theaters. And I don't think this is doing like amazing in movie theaters. I know it's about to get a digital release like early. It's already
with the premium like $25 rental.
Which I will say, especially if you have kids, you have younger kids, it's hard to go to a movie theater. I do think that like you could appreciate a lot of this at home. I think this is like a very beautiful movie.
It's doing okay. It hit 100 million.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's pretty good then. I would invite people to go see it in theater just because, like I said, like the visual spectacle is half of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say I almost saw it the other day, but we've been having great weather here, so I didn't want to be in a theater.
It's fair.
A medium is dying because of people just like
and you're like, buddy. I want to go for a walk.
Jesus.
Fucking idiot. It's a movie that is like very much, it doesn't really shy away from what it is. It's a very touching movie. I think it's one of those things that like I almost wonder if it works for kids as well as it would work for adults. Like I had this, I was talking about with Guy after we got out of just like, if I was a kid, she loved it. Yeah. Okay. I will also say, watch this movie with the expectation that you're gonna cry, because I did cry several different times in this movie. It like really fucking got to me. And I can be a little bit of a mark sometimes whenever there is like something that's well executed and beautiful, especially if it is like a movie about parenthood or a movie about whatever. Like I have some key spots that people can focus in on,
but it's not like the Pixar cheap shot.
It's not exactly. It is not. It's very earned. Everything in this movie is earned, I would say. And it's legitimately like not just my favorite animated movie of the year. It's one of my favorite movies.
And you did sob during Terrifier 3 as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Deep, like ugly.
But that was like, it was like, you know, when you're so horny, you just can't stop crying. Does this ever happen to you?
When they just start chopping off every limb.
Yeah.
You and Colin are just holding each other. I have never seen
a Terrifier movie. Unfortunately or fortunately, to be honest, I don't know the difference. I was going to see Terrifier 3 with friend of the pod, Colin, and then a hurricane happened. And so I don't think I'll ever see a Terrifier movie now. That was my one I was going to see.
We are so lucky that he is not making us see Terrifier for his victory of the film league.
I would watch Terrifier. I mean, I can watch some slash shit.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's The Wild Robot. Looks like it's a big recommend.
Yeah. Strong recommend. It's a top 10 contender.
Before we get to the substance, I want to shout out a little movie that's on Netflix right now. It's called It's What's Inside. It's getting a bit of attention, but I haven't really seen it like really blow up in a big way. It was a Sundance acquisition by Netflix this year. And I believe I don't know if it hit a record or anything like that, but it was one of the noisier pickups of the fest. This is one of those movies that, you know, there once upon a time, I was someone who religiously like avoided trailers and all promotional material, and I would go into movies like,
it was so annoying,
really like making a huge effort not to know anything.
Remember like going into a movie theater and like closing your eyes and plugging your ears?
Literally, like I would do that. That's not what I do anymore, but I feel like this is one of those movies that benefits immensely from knowing zero, like just watching it unfold the way it wants you to without any type of understanding of what it's about.
Moving on to the substance.
But I did want to put it out there. It's got like a bit of a soft sci-fi flair to it. It's a very small movie with just a few actors.
It's like betrayal type of game. Like, isn't that like what's going on?
I don't want to say exactly what it is, but it is a game of sorts.
Yeah, I heard it's like some kind of a party game. It's like a game of deception kind of thing. And that's about all that I know of it.
One of the things that really impressed me is it feels like a really cool showcase of just actors acting. Like the way the story progresses, you just get to see a lot of really cool decisions made by this cast. It's a small cast. I think it's only like 8 people in a house, and it goes places. So if you're into, like, I know we were really into movies like Coherence back in the day, you know, like a super bare bones.
This is what I've heard. I've heard Coherence.
Yeah,
come up. Like it's got me interested.
Oh,
like,
brother, I love some Coherence.
A sci-fi movie that gets its idea across just by acting, right? Like, you're not doing any type of big set pieces. You're not putting a lot of production. You're not spending a lot of money on this thing. You're just relying on your performers. So it's What's Inside. It's on Netflix. Very accessible, very fun, incredibly like watchable and entertaining. I don't think it's like, you know, a 5-star masterpiece or anything like that, like one of the great films of our time. But I think compared to something like The Electric State, another Netflix original movie getting a lot of attention right now from our Russo brothers.
Positive attention. Right?
It is like way, way better than that. So just wanted to put it on your radar. It's What's Inside.
First of all, you don't know that. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if it's like the greatest movie of all time?
You're like, this is the next Star Wars.
I will bet my laptop.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's something. That's not nothing. I don't know.
So let's get to our main event of the episode, the substance. Full spoiler discussion. Do we want to do a full spoiler discussion? You guys hadn't seen it last time I brought it up. Now you guys have. I don't know if you want to share any spoiler-free thoughts before we really dig into it. I got off all my spoiler-free takes last time we did an episode.
I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. Like it's pretty as advertised. I think that, I don't know, if you are sort of being scared off of watching it because what you're hearing is that it's so fucking disgusting and brutal.
It's not Terrifier 3.
That's the thing. So there are 2 separate things when people talk about something being like gross, you know, like a movie being like disgusting. This isn't one of those horror movies where the entire vibe of the movie is scary, where like every second you're like, I'm about to get scared.
Yeah.
It's kind of quite the opposite. In fact, like a lot of the movie is not in like the scary zone. You're not having to worry. And so I think a lot of people are sort of hesitant to watch this that don't need to be. That said, you do have to be okay with like some wild shit happening.
Yeah.
Like some really,
otherwise you're going to be covering your eyes like half the movie.
It's just, there's visually some super insane, like brutal shit. Absolutely. It's just my bigger concern with like horror stuff is like, am I going to be just like feeling like scared for 2 hours straight? And that's not the case here. You're
like elevated heart rate, like flight.
It's really not horror. Like I would say that like there's not really much gore.
It is a body horror movie.
Well, so it is body horror, but even like the splatter core part is the last 20-30 minutes of the movie,
and it's fun and like, entertaining.
It is, for the most part, it is more in that soft sci-fi realm. It's very much like close to reality and just kind of making you like live in this world, this sci-fi that's like.
But there are gross images early on.
Yeah. There's one sequence that is gross. I would say I didn't really find any other sequences to be like grotesque or anything like that until we kind of round into form in the third act, which, by the way, when this movie wants to go for it, it fully goes for it. And that is like one of the best things I can say about this movie is that like it is very confident with what it is. It very much like it's something that I've never seen any of Coralie Fargeat. Is that her name?
I think it's Coralie Fargeat. Yeah, I believe.
I have not seen Revenge.
French people.
Jesus.
One of the best letterbox reviews of this movie is we need to make sure French people don't make any more movies until we figure out what the fuck is going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, that's good.
Remember Titan?
Titan is great, man. Those some good shit right there. And then like on the other end, it's just like The Taste of Things, which is like one of the most beautiful movies about food.
Oh yeah, that was French. Yeah.
No, I will say I did really love this movie a lot. I think that buoying this movie is like the tone is very spot on. I do really appreciate that Coralie is like someone who is very like on the pulse and has a specific style that you can feel. And will kind of make you look at images that until you do not want to look at them anymore and you're forced to look at them some more. I appreciate that her style for that. Demi Moore. I started the other day making my long list for our critics vote everything. Demi Moore is my number one for best actress of the year right now. Because I think that it is incredible what she's doing.
I think it is the best performance I've seen this year.
I think you might be right. Like it might be my favorite, especially if like it is one of those things where you take a little bit of like the weight and the baggage of like an actor's career in it. I think that like this is kind of one of those performances that like Demi Moore was truly like born to play at this late stage of her career as like this beautiful woman who is grappling with this younger version of herself. And did she fully live the best version of that could have been? Even if she did, is she just still like yearning to get back to that point? And my other like favorite piece about this thing is the production design. It is like very stripped down. I don't know what what the budget ended up actually being for this movie.
I think it's around 15.
15. Okay.
It's sub 20.
And I'm sure that like at least a few of those mil are just going to Demi. So probably like the actual like production design of this movie is probably only like maybe 5 to 7 mil or so.
17, it says 17.5. Okay.
I mean, this is a movie that's fully taking advantage of the hand that's being dealt, of making things that have a very specific look and a very specific style to them that feels both in concert with like what has become a little bit hot, what has become a little bit brat today, if you will. The brat greens that are in here and stuff like that feel very timely.
The substance itself is brat.
Well, also there is a timelessness to this movie that I really appreciate a lot.
So if you didn't tune in last week, I basically just gushed over this movie. Lee and I saw it together. We went on a date outing to see it, and our minds were completely blown. Mm-hmm. This is the one movie that is contending for the top spot of the year for me between this and Dune 2. I'd probably put Challengers up there as well. I'd feel like between those three is probably the top spot for me. But man, I could not get enough of this movie.
Okay. An edit of the Challengers poster where the two guys in Challengers are Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and Zendaya is Dennis Quaid.
Munching on the shrimp, just like
sucking down.
Just a thought. If anyone's got some free time.
So let's get into spoilers. If you haven't seen The Substance, huge recommend.
I'm going in muted because I know how much of an avid fan you were. I absolutely love this movie. This is easily one of my favorite movies of the year because I have a lot of in-depth thoughts of this movie and how all of its ideas that it has to it. But I want to save those for a spoiler discussion because this is something that like I think that you should go in knowing as little as possible.
And I think the trailers have done an amazing job of just hiding like all the goodies that are in this movie.
Well, the trailers show like the central idea that is there, which is just like a older woman takes a substance in order to be this younger version of themselves. And I think that's
the log line. The IMDb log line is a fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other. Well, let's just get into spoilers and then.
Last chance. Get out now if you haven't seen it or.
So my first,
spoilers.
This isn't a super spoiler. It's sort of like really, but I think another big piece of this movie, if you haven't seen it and you're sort of wondering what the vibe is that this is taking place in a very absurd world.
Yeah.
It's not even.
She's auditioning for the New Year's show.
The New Year's show while she has
billboard is the New Year's show.
She has like a daytime yoga show.
Yeah,
she's basically getting like the Taylor Swift treatment.
The fading celebrity's name is Elizabeth Sparkle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very wow platinum of her.
And she is famous for having like an 80s style aerobics TV show.
Yeah. Very like Jane Fonda-esque.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she is which you'd be like, oh yeah, so it's like a show for old people. So like, if she gets replaced by someone new, it's a whole new type of show. No. The new version of the show
it's just ass
is still 80s style aerobics, but it's just like zooming in on like ass.
Yeah.
Like so
ass and titties.
Like at one point, the Margaret Qualley goes on a late night talk show that is called The Show.
Yeah.
If you look at like his mug. So we're like existing in a world where you don't have to think about logistics at all, because the logistics,
it's just the metaphor. It's just the symbol.
The logistics of like the substance company is great. Like there's nothing you don't want to think about that for more than 2 seconds because none of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
Why they're doing it.
Yeah.
None of it. You don't need to
What is the advantage of any kind?
Is she paying?
I don't think so.
We don't know.
How much is the substance? Is it $10?
And so because of that,
covered under insurance,
because it is so absurdist and like this viewpoint it has on media, this movie really could have come out any time in the past like 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not.
It doesn't lean heavily on technology.
No, modern technology is not important. One of the biggest visual symbols is a billboard in this movie.
Yes.
Like this could have come out like in a wide swath of years. And it really has that feel to it. Like it feels like something that exists like within its own vacuum, almost in the way that like a Lynch movie does.
Yeah.
Like it's just like this is just like
very Lynch.
Yeah, this is like it's like dream logic. You know what I mean? You cannot CinemaSins it because that's not the point.
It's fully is a show. It is a movie, and I could see why this point specifically would frustrate people. That it kind of is a movie that's all metaphor in a lot of ways. Like it is only about the thing that saves it is that it's not just about one thing. It is about a bunch of different things.
It keeps unfolding itself.
I
over
think
and
that's
over.
the one thing, and I've been kind of racking my brain to know if I love this or if I don't like it or not. But this is a movie that kind of it will insist upon itself, and it will continue to show
it's like
the same
very
thing
redundant
over and over. It's so many redundancies.
Yeah,
it is redundancies. It's redundant shots, and in a lot of the stuff, it feels very purposeful. Like we're just gonna keep showing ass. We're gonna keep showing this naked body until like you feel bad. You feel like you're Dennis Quaid ogling at the screen here. That stuff I feel is effective. There's also another side of it where it almost feels like there is no trust in the audience to follow things, where it's just like
that's been one of the knocks.
The continuous zoom in on like you were great to like you are amazing and like a lot like just the things that were
remember you are one.
Yeah. Well,
all that.
I mean, there's some of that and everything, or like even the point of fun loser guy from high school that like we have to show his face glowing up on the cloud. It's like, you are always so beautiful. Like, I like that style and things, but it is a little bit of like it's almost so handholdy that like there was a little bit of like I got it. Yeah. Like I'm good. I'm following what's happening. You don't need to like remind me of what happened here already.
So yeah, that criticism I absolutely can like sympathize with. I love the movie. I had a great time either way, but I think that the reason that that's super valid is because this isn't a 90-minute movie or 100-minute movie.
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
So it could have been trimmed down a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really easy to point out what didn't necessarily have to be there if you're trying to shorten it a little bit.
But on the bright side, or on the flip side of things, I am glad that it is that long, because I think if you are going to trim this and like if this got bought by a major studio and not movie, then we are trimming up the last act. We're trimming up all of the splatter
Monster Elisu.
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of Monster Elisu. Here's what I'll say in defense of that. Incredibly early on in this movie, like within the first few minutes, first of all, the opening of this movie, I was so on board. Like the first shot is a yolk splitting into two yolks, and then you get this extended sequence of the star on the Hollywood Walk being built. Like that is what I made a letterbox list, as I do, of movies that I thought about in relationship to the substance. Whiplash is on this list because of the sheer confidence on display within the opening few seconds of the film. Like immediately you're like, oh shit, like this is a director who knows exactly what they want to accomplish, right? So I'm already fully on board. Then we get this Dennis Quaid sequence with the shrimp. There is a close-up of a fly, right? The fly. Come on.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we are in the Shining bathroom. Like literally we're just, it is so painfully obvious, incredibly obvious what this movie is doing. It is the opposite of subtle from the beginning.
Yes.
It is showing you like, hey, The Fly.
Yeah, these are the influences.
Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. Like, come on. We are not even trying to hide it. So by the time you get to these things that are so repetitive and redundant, I was already in the mode of expecting the movie to be not subtle at all. Yeah. Well, so it wasn't an issue.
Also, generally the reason like I would consider it very watchable despite all that is because it is all looking really good.
Every shot, every single shot.
Yeah, it's well shot. It's well conceived. Like the locations are well conceived. She does almost like a Kubrick-y thing where the layout of her apartment is impossible.
No, you could not map it. I had tried to think about the hallway from her living room
to the bathroom,
and then also to the doorway that's over there. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It only makes sense if she has like a penthouse where it's the whole top floor, but yet she has like
it's like the corner.
She has like a really like dumb like middle class seeming guy living across from her,
right across in a very narrow hallway.
That is the Run P moment, by the way.
That guy.
Whenever we're talking to that guy, we don't need we don't need that guy.
It was just to show another gross guy. Like that was it.
Right. When he realizes it's Margaret Qualley, he's like, oh, what?
I enjoy, as far as like, beating you over the head goes, I enjoy a lot of the lines that the stupid guys have. I agree. That guy is worse than I love the guy she knew from high school.
That's so good.
That guy's great.
His lines
so
are hilarious.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing him. Another redundancy thing that I did enjoy actually was, as opposed to like, I think there are a couple like just like hard cuts to like a flashback. I love when the flashback is, it's sort of like clouded into like a specific part of the frame.
Yeah.
Just because that's a cool look.
Vignette.
Yeah. It just looks great. I love the way it looks. You know who did that literally last week is Survivor.
A close in on the frame like that, like a vignette?
Just like showing flashbacks like in different parts of a frame with like someone who's having the flashbacks in the frame.
Oh yeah.
Which Survivor's never done that before. They're very bored over there, clearly. But like watching
I would love to edit Survivor.
Watching it, I was like, are they doing the substance right now?
They're doing the substance.
It was so funny. But yeah, there are certain redundancy things that are really, really enjoyable in this. I think
it's so obvious. Like the movie is not trying to be subtle at all.
I think the only reason that I could have some issue with it is because it does eat up time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the time.
But it is a thing, and that's kind of where I'm coming back to where I'm like of two minds of it, because it is redundant to a point that I think that some of it's effective and some of it isn't as effective. I also do think that this movie does have great pace, though. Like it's not something that really
feel the length,
even if it is longer.
I mean,
now could this have been 2 hours? Maybe, but like
the time issue is tough to defend because like, yeah, you could definitely say you can trim out those extra 15, 20 minutes. But I feel like the redundancy, the obvious callbacks, like literally like all these movies that it's referencing. The other movies I have written down, like movies like The Thing and Requiem for a Dream and Pi. And
friend of the pod, Colin, like pointed out like there's a lot of Frank Henenlotter and Brian Yenza in this stuff of like while we're talking about like specifically not just the like body horror aspect, but a lot of body dysmorphia stuff. Like that's really huge in those movies, and that's kind of something that is kind of body dysmorphia is one of the central things that is at the crux of this movie and is the I would say like the central point that it gets the most right. Like that whole feeling of just
I feel like there's a lot of points that this movie gets right.
Well, I think there's a lot, but like specifically this feeling of just like looking yourself in the mirror and not liking what you see, just being unhappy with what is looking back at you. That is the thing that like most resonated with me while watching this movie, and I think is like kind of at its center core. It very much is a movie about like the woman, the female experience with that specifically. But I do think that there is a lot there about just in general the human experience.
Yeah, aging.
And
yes,
it's something that we all gotta get
Demi Moore is 60 years old.
Yeah,
she's
playing 50 and
amazing.
She's watched, which is so funny.
She looks fucking amazing. It is so sad. We'll get to it in a second. Like what I think is the best scene in the movie, which is the getting ready for the
makeup
date
scene.
Well, so that's what I was gonna say. Also, is obviously that this isn't baked into the movie so much necessarily, but that's such a universally like human moment.
Yeah.
That like watching it, I was almost like, damn, there could be more of that here. Even though I know that's not,
I feel like that is the high point of the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Is like,
because there is not more of it. It stands out, doesn't it?
It super does, because it's an experience that I think we've all had, especially women, obviously, but like the never feeling satisfied with how you're looking to the point that you just like don't even want to go out.
Yeah.
Like,
but she does it, isn't it like 3 times that she completely takes off all her makeup and reapplies?
Yeah, and it's more like anxiety inducing than anything else in the movie. Like because she's playing it great. It's really well directed, and it's
the cuts to the clock as it's just getting later.
Exactly.
And, later.
And
it's heartbreaking.
And it's just a very human observation that to the point that I think maybe if there was a little more of that, it would have been nice. Because I don't know, we're getting so much flash in this movie that it's really easy to just like, you know, you're just going with the vibe of it and you're like,
but I feel like the flash is part of the point. Like this is what I'm trying to get at, is that you have all these overlapping instances of redundancy and obviousness and lack of subtlety and these incredibly like telegraphed callbacks to all these other movies, Lynch, Kubrick, Fincher, like there's a whole list, right? Everything that this is doing is creating this feeling, this assault on the senses. This movie is incredibly oppressive. And that feeling of repetition is part of the context and the tone of this heightened world that we are in.
You're right.
And I understand. I really, there's not a lot of pushback that I'll give on the idea of trimming out a few minutes out of the movie. But the idea of like this movie refusing to cut away when other directors would, when it would make sense to cut away and it doesn't, it's to induce that feeling of oppression and assault, specifically in the sense of what the media does to perpetuate this idea of beauty standards. Like that's the real crux that this movie exists in, is like all of these roads, they all intersect at that point of that feeling of discomfort that we are inundated with this image. Like we're not born with this idea of like knowing that at some point you're not beautiful anymore and you don't matter and you only have value if you look a certain way. We are taught that through the media, through the images.
Whenever
that we are
you're
shown.
told that you are disposable.
Right. That's not a natural thing in the world. That's something that has to be taught to us. And that's the feeling that is conveyed in this film. I think it is so artistically, like, just expertly communicated. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. I cannot think of another movie that does that creates that feeling and is able to maintain it so well in tandem with the horror thriller aspect of it. Like, as you're getting worked up about that and you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling like we need to move on to the next thing, to me, that feeling is right alongside, like, oh, she's turning into a weird witch finger lady and we're cutting into her spine and we're climbing out of her back. And like all of these like more genre type stuff is happening right alongside the thematic stuff. It's perfect to me. It's unbelievable.
It's also like, I don't mean this as a slight at all. It's really cool that she's doing all of this. It almost feels like there's one hand tied behind the movie's back because like the dialogue is so limited in a way. Like it's
another world.
Yeah,
it's not our world. It's not our world's dialogue.
It's just
and everybody is like a caricature of
exactly.
Themselves.
Everyone is.
Dennis Quaid is the worst guy,
and even like Demi, like every single character is speaking so stupidly.
Yeah. Well, and Margaret Qualley, Margaret Qualley, Demi. I know that they're the same person, but she just comes out and immediately is like, "Well, fuck that other me." Like I'm just immediately moving on and gonna make this other person pay for it. Like it is kind of like a thing where. I think that you could I don't feel this way, but like a negative thing that you could say is like you can kind of feel where the movie is going, like in a lot of the things because people are such caricatures of themselves.
You're waiting for everything that happens in the last act. You are ready for it.
Yeah.
It's almost like the end of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where you're just being edged for like 2 hours.
That's what I'm saying. I don't mean that as a negative.
Loaded.
Yes,
cocked and loaded.
And you're just like, when are we gonna fucking shoot that thing?
It's
like,
just,
let me see this.
That's the other thing that reminds me of Lynch in like, you know, a complimentary way, but also it's the reason I had a hard time connecting with his stuff for a while is because like the way that people are talking is not it makes less sense with Lynch. It makes more sense for someone who literally like English is her second language,
right?
That everyone's talking as if that's the case. But like
Lynch, everybody talks like this acquaintance that's now in your dream. That is the thing. And this movie has a little bit of that where it's just very much like it's that feeling of being in a nightmare, but it's before the scary thing has happened. And you just have this like dread in your stomach of like, oh God, something's bad is going to happen here. And like nobody around you is acting quite right. But you're just kind of stuck in it. You're just there for the ride and you just kind of have to wait it out until
it's the scene in Blue Velvet when the guy is singing into the light. There's just strange people in the background.
And woman starts sobbing into your arms.
And it's just like the fact that I don't know, the reason that is so good in both cases with Lynch and with her, I think more so with this movie is that like alongside the really stupid dialogue, which is stupid like on purpose for the most part, like you're getting visual mastery, like just absolute
every shot
gorgeous, like incredibly edited. It's all perfect. Like it's absolute perfection. So you're never doubting like the steadiness of the hands. You know what I mean? Like if you were getting these lines in a movie that looks like pretty good,
you'd probably be on your way out.
You'd be completely out. Yeah, 100% because the lines are so dumb. But it's part of the point. And also, you know, like I saw one Letterboxd review that I thought was funny, even though I don't really agree with it, which is like this movie has a lot of moments that are like you know, the Inglourious Bastards fingers scene of like, tell me you're not
realization.
Tell me you're not really American. For example, when the beginning
because it's an LA story,
the beginning Hollywood star sequence when it snows. is one thing.
Yeah.
Which I did clock. I was like, so, but then the thing is, you're watching a movie that's so fucking insane, and they never even say the words LA. You know what I mean?
It's so removed from reality that it's like, I don't know.
No, exactly. And that's
what this world is.
Well, so that's ultimately why like all these negative reviews like are pissing me off, is because like, did you watch the movie after that? Because like, if you're going to watch it with that same critical eye of like, well, that wouldn't happen, then like everything is wrong. Yeah. You fucking idiot.
Let's just poke holes into every little
so you just go get your Ozempic from an alleyway?
I don't see a lot of shows that are like that one. You know, like none of it's like hyper realism. It's the exact opposite.
So the drug addiction point, I want to put a pin in, because that is something I wrote down.
About like about drug addiction, or about like the fashion drugs of like an Ozempic?
We can talk about both,
because those are kind of two different things that the movie kind of does both of. I think I personally, and I know like going into it, I heard a lot of people use like the like Ozempic Mounjaro kind of thing as like a catalyst for what this movie is. I really viewed this much more as a metaphor for party drugs and stuff like that, and much more getting into that lifestyle. Like this is much more
holding on to youth.
Well, and it's much more akin to a party drug that you never want the party to end than it is something that is just like designed for like, oh, I want to like lose weight and feel not be able to eat for 3 days.
I'm imagining, Hunter, you know, when you were a kid and you got caught with weed and your dad gave you that funny lecture.
Yeah, my dad made me write down all my dreams on a piece of paper and then lit them on fire and says, this is what you do. This is what you do every time you spark up a joint. I swear to God.
So
Ira Matthew Mobley.
I'm imagining
the substance.
If your dad caught you like doing like Molly or something, he'd be like, have you ever seen The Substance? What you're doing, you're extracting that Molly from your older
right
self.
Yeah.
You are killing your future self
for
benefit right now.
I'd be like, damn, that's just crazy. I'm hosting the New Year's ball, though.
That's the truth, though. That is literally what this movie is trying to tell you, is that when you're young, you make decisions that don't impact your younger self. They impact your older self. And that's part of what this movie is about. That's one of the layers of it.
You are one.
Remember, you are one. I'm not sure that one was communicated enough times.
I left it. I was like,
did they say it ever?
Are they one?
Were they two? I can get that.
Harry, a friend of the pod, who
got really hung up on that one.
He liked this movie, like wasn't crazy about it, but did very much like it. But one thing he said was very true. I don't even know if he meant it positively or negatively, which is you could just watch this movie on mute.
Yeah.
And there's not a single thing that you would not understand. You would get it all because it's visually communicated perfectly.
And guess what? Movies are mostly visual.
And and also like, I don't know. I was saying after we watched it, like I was saying how jealous I was of her abilities as a filmmaker because of that. Because like when I would write scripts, so much of them would just be dependent on like the lines being said,
bogged down in the dialogue.
And it wouldn't even necessarily matter where this was taking place.
There's
or like
not a lot of dialogue in this movie.
Well, honestly. No, and there's a reason, but it's so someone who starts with the visual and then works, sort of backwards, not in like a Mission Impossible type of way, because those movies have way too much dialogue, if you're asking me. But like,
it's because they have to. It's a cleanup job.
Yeah, but it's just in a way of like she is thinking, okay, here's what could happen next. What would be the most interesting looking thing?
Yeah.
Where like I think a great example of this is when Margaret Qualley is beating the shit out of like demented grandma Demi Moore, and there's one moment in particular where Margaret kicks her across a whole room, and we have not established any like supernatural abilities. It doesn't make any sense. We don't even know if she's stronger than a normal person, but you can tell that as a filmmaker, she was just like, what would look the craziest right now? What would like fit the vibe of this?
But also the feeling of hurting yourself. That scene is also like tapping into something so primal about like, I want to hurt myself. I want to inflict harm on myself. Because remember, you are one.
Wait, what?
So she's actually, when she punches the lady, she's punching herself.
Oh my God, I didn't get that.
And it is continuously trying to let you sit in that horrible feeling of that self-loathing.
Yeah,
well, also just like sitting in the feeling of not just self-loathing, but like stupidity, because you're watching Qualley and you're like, she does not understand this premise one bit.
She's not getting that.
The you are one callbacks are for her, right? She could use them.
Demi's not getting. She's not passing along that message to her. No, but to your point about like the way that the movie looks, and it's something that going back to like your comparison to Whiplash and something. This movie felt a lot like somebody's first film. And I was almost surprised to see that Coralie has made a couple movies before this. Now, granted, it's been 7 years since she made Revenge.
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it either.
She's still, relatively young for a feature filmmaker.
But the thing is that like
40 something.
This is one of those movies where like it's the reason why a lot of times I feel like, especially like
almost 50.
When there's a director who I really love, I end up kind of clinging on a lot of times to some of their early works, especially when they are like people who actually write their screenplays too, because you can tell that they've spent decades racking not just like the story that they want to make,
the frames,
certain visuals in their brain that they could not get out. Like I guarantee the idea of a woman laying naked on a bathroom floor with her spine cut open lived in her brain for like decades before she ever captured it on film. So it's one of those things, and this movie has so many of those moments. The kicking is just one of those things where it's like, how can I articulate like this vision that I've been sitting with in my head for all of these years and get that out into the screen so that audiences can see it? And I think that is kind of the thing that resonates the most with this movie.
Well, lesser things too, just like simple things like putting the newspaper on the window, covering the window, the billboard,
the looking out. And again, this goes to like, this is a made up world here that everything is a metaphor of like, I have this one like incredible penthouse apartment, and then there's just a fucking billboard that's right in front of me that's facing right in that just happens to only show
it's
me
very
and my life on it.
It's very Gatsby.
Yes, it's the green light.
Dr. T.J. Eckelberg.
I'll add it to the letterbox list.
Thank you.
Which Great Gatsby? Which one do you guys put on there?
Should I? I'll do the Leo.
Okay.
So the other biggest read on this movie that to me was like the second most obvious one beyond like the the body image read is the motherhood angle, that this is about having a kid.
Oh, this is great. I haven't I haven't really thought about
where
this.
like as a woman having a child, you are physically sacrificing the way you look forever in order to have a smaller version of yourself who you then have to see grow up and like become the youthful, like adored, sought after version of you.
Some ways living the dreams that you never got to live because you gave that
resent each other.
Yeah. Well, that really comes into focus when she looks like a grandma and is obsessed with cooking. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Like it's very
that's good.
Yeah, like it's super, super evident. Like there's a huge motherhood angle here, which makes a lot of sense because we're talking about like generally the plight of a woman. And how they look. Like becoming a mother is one of the biggest sacrifices that you could make to your concept of self and also your aesthetic self as a woman at the same time. And so it is, it's super, super evident throughout the movie. But yeah, first of all, I love the cookbook that Quaid gives her where he's like, you're old, right? So like
here's a fucking cook. We all pitched in to get this one for you. It's like a basic ass cookbook.
It's a cookbook where every recipe is disgusting. It's all like liverwurst.
What was it, like eviscerate the turkey?
Yeah. And I love it aesthetically. It's great too. It could just make sense on the aesthetic terms because like, and even like obvious symbology, because at one point she literally is like making like a turducken type thing where she's shoving one bird into another bird. But like other than that, this is like the traditional role of what happens with older woman is she's at home cooking a shitload of food and like letting go of herself, watching her younger self on TV and being like, I gave you that. I gave you everything.
Demi Moore insane in that scene. Like
it's
incredible.
So
like that is the moment where I'm thinking like, I think this is the best. I don't know many Demi Moore movies, but this is by far like the best thing she's ever done.
It's better than her in A Few Good Men.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's
100%.
Yeah.
It's not her fault in A Few Good Men. Yeah. But like something like Ghost or Striptease, that was really like, that was peak.
I need to see Striptease.
Was 90 early
Ghost is okay.
mid 90s Demi Moore.
Lee might have some thoughts on Ghost. I think she might be. I think she might be awake. Maybe I should go get her.
I did want to say, as far as like everything that Demi Moore is doing and everything, like that whole other aspect, we talked specifically about like the substance abuse angle and everything. I think this is also just a beautiful movie about just like pure depression, about just like that feeling of just being like unable to find joy in things that once gave you joy. And it's just that whole point of like, I can't even go outside today. I just need to just sit here and just watch fucking basic cable game shows for a week straight so that I can go back to another life that I don't even get to live.
Well, I think the addiction part is part of that.
It's tied into
too.
that.
I mean, what I wrote down is that this is a very, like, I don't know what it's like to be like a full on junkie, but
it's literally hooking people up to an IV and letting them
people
die.
Yeah. Like I know people who have struggled with addiction and I've seen it like firsthand. And I feel like this movie, there's a lot of movies that do this, but this movie gets the torture part of being an addict incredibly well. And again, I brought it up earlier. Requiem for a Dream, I think, is probably like one of the most visceral depictions of that idea of like wanting to refuse the high, but you are physically incapable of it. Right. And that costs, like, what is the true cost of that addiction? And I feel like the depression part is in tandem with that, because it's that idea of, you know, nobody wants to be depressed. You're not choosing it. You're not. I feel like people try to conflate addiction with like a choice, like you're choosing to be an addict, and that's not what.
But it truly is a physical dependency, on a certain on something at a certain point. It's crazy. It's something that, and this also, I do want to give credit. We gotta give Margaret Qualley her flowers too.
Yeah,
as much
she's
as
not the shining star. She's not the Hollywood.
She's not
Walk
Elizabeth
of Fame.
Sparkle, but I do think that she is awesome in the movie. I just gotta say, Margaret Qualley's last 12 months.
Kinds of Kindness.
So Poor Things. She was in Drive Away Dolls, Kinds of Kindness, and The Substance. Drive Away Dolls not a great movie, but it's, again, like, she is making such interesting choices as an actor that, like, as Leftover stands, we just got to be happy that, like, just seeing her out here actually fully living her best life.
I heard that Justin Theroux was considered for this role though, and I wish it was him.
Do you know the original Dennis Quaid? Ernest just walked away, so I might have to bust this out to him.
I did, but I'm not remembering right now.
Ray Liotta, and then he died. But Ray Liotta was originally supposed to be the Dennis Quaid role. The thing is that I'm not going to say that. I would never in my life say that Dennis Quaid would give a better performance than Ray Liotta in a movie.
Hey, sounds like you just did.
It almost works better that's Dennis Quaid, because Dennis Quaid simultaneously had Reagan coming out in theaters at the same time. So like, we know that he might not have even gotten a script. This might just be like Dennis Quaid actually how he feels about women.
That's one thing. Also, though, the fact that this is a man who is actively experiencing an old age renaissance in a way that actresses aren't allowed to have.
That too. Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah. We're like, because, you know, like there are older actresses who continue to thrive like Streep, but like Dennis Quaid was like a C-lister at best. Yeah. And now he's like all of a sudden in like every movie again. When does that happen with women?
No, it just doesn't happen if
like,
you're a woman.
The industry angle of this is another really strong thing, because like it's Hollywood just kind of amplifies all of the societal standards involving women. Like it is them to their furthest extreme in a really fucked up way. So it's her actively commenting on everyone who's like involved with greenlighting the movie that she's making.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I do think we could see this getting some recognition.
I mean, I really hope
there's something happening. It's bubbling up.
It's an industry. It's an industry film in a way.
So I looked at I went on Gold Derby earlier because I was
She's
curious.
not in the top 5.
She is now in the top 5 as of this week today. She's number 4.
Whoa.
So, and I think that
for best actress.
Yes. And now will that hold?
That did not.
Probably
I think
not.
I checked this last night and she wasn't.
They update on Mondays. So that's why I checked today just to see.
I think she was
this
7.
Is still living. The thing is, it's still an outside shot because most of the stuff has not come out yet.
I think that this movie is getting so much acclaim that I think it happens. I think she gets the nom.
I think that she's definitely a lock for an Indie Spirit Award.
Yeah.
Like no doubt, 100%. I think that she will probably win, hopefully win that. But if
there's so many scenes.
If she even gets nominated for The Substance, she doesn't even have to win. If she just gets nominated for The Substance, that is such a massive win for her career, for indie movies, like true indies, not like fake ass indie movies.
And
like,
horror never gets nominated.
Is Lee joining us?
No,
okay.
She's watching What We Do in the Shadows. She's locked in.
I did want to talk a little bit more about the horror parts of this movie because the movie does devolve in the last act.
Can I just say the moment that blood started raining down on the audience, I stood up and clapped. I was hooting and hollering.
I think I saw it with a really good audience. It wasn't a packed audience, but I'd say it was like a third to a halfway full. And like, it was the moment that the beast, the creature monstro was born. I started cackling, like truly, like audibly, like could not stop, like laughing and like clapping, and people in my audience were like all in, like let's fucking
that's so good.
go.
The
this
sequence
is what we are here for.
The monster being created is it's what you've been waiting for the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it reminded me a lot of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, also starring Margaret Qualley.
And we heard this movie was gross. We there had been many rumblings about the final stretch, about the final 20 minutes and how crazy it was. And at one point in the movie, I wasn't tracking the time, but I thought, okay, her turning into this incredibly decrepit old lady, like the 3-month jump.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, is this the monster? Because this is kind of sad right now. Like, thinking, or just old decrepit women.
I was thinking, like, okay, this moment we talked about earlier, the kind of like beating down on the old lady. I was like, okay, I think this is it. I think this might be the crazy ending that everybody was talking about.
Exactly. Even without trying to hear anything, I had heard so much that I was like, this can't be it.
Yeah, but you're waiting. You're like,
when Margaret Qualley takes like the remainder of the substance, it reminded me of in Good Time when he feeds all the acid to the guy.
Yes.
And you're like, no, you can't do that. You can't do you can't take that much.
A water bottle of acid. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's that feeling of like, anything could happen.
Yeah, I feel in danger now.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to do that.
And then her eye, the visual of her eye multiplying into like 10 pupils is so sick.
Yeah.
It looks
so cool.
It looks so good. I don't know how they did it.
Movies are dreams.
It's gorgeous. And then you just get this absolutely beautiful little lady.
I mean, so much of this movie pulls from like very serious things like the story of like The Fountain of Youth, The Portrait of Dorian Gray, even like Stanley Kubrick movies, Fincher movies, Lynch movies, like they all have their
Requiem.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Requiem.
Yeah, Aronofsky, like definitely early Aronofsky. Like there are like kind of weird, quasi funny aspects of those movies.
Yeah,
I feel like this movie. This is something that Lee and I talked a lot about. We spent a lot of time talking about this movie. What this movie accomplishes is that it takes these male-dominated movies and it points at them, it brings them in, and it flips them on his head. Like, we get the 2001, also, what is it? Also Sparks Zathura, the song, the 2001 song that plays.
Thus Spake Zarathustra.
I always forget what the boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Basically what that is doing, it is not only saying like, hey, I am bringing in all these influences, but I'm also kind of ridiculing them.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of saying like, hey, we don't have to be that serious. We can make fun of all of this. This is silly. Let's have some fun. Let's splatter blood over all these people. There's a kid here. There's a child. Let's splatter blood over the child.
Also, so going back to before that even happens, and again, to this world that just doesn't make sense. It's like the ABC New Year's Eve ball drop, and there's just naked women dancing on stage, and there's like a 7-year-old who's like, yay, mommy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like an auditorium of like 50 people that are at the New Year's show.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a closed. Yeah, it's like on a soundstage. Every New Year's Eve special ever from the last like 30 years is outside.
Yeah,
with thousands of people. Yeah,
it's really so. Like I said, this isn't even trying to like parody like the media that it's portraying. It's just trying to parody all media. Yeah, and so it's just like girls with their titties out with like an audience of all old white guys.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I mean, it's set up by like the backstage scenes of Quaid walking with all the executives behind him, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Anytime you get a bunch of guys like walking in unison, it's
funny when they just like skip away.
Yeah, it's like it's like watching like Brazil or something.
Exactly. Yeah, Gillian.
It's
a lot of Gillian.
There's a lot of Gillian in this. Yeah.
It's like goofy.
Gilliam.
Yeah, it's just silliness, and then you get. So you're going to have to remind me exactly how it goes down, but there's almost like a dream sequence of her getting there. And then she actually does get there.
Well, honestly, the whole time I'm waiting, like I am imagining in my head what happens in the movie before it happens. Like, again, going back to the redundancy, going back to the obviousness, the moment that this idea is established of these two bodies having to be 7 days spaced apart and you have to trade, no exceptions, you're already thinking like, okay, here's a rule that's going to be broken at some point in the movie, right?
Yeah.
You're prepped for it. So the moment you hear about this show, about this New Year's show, you're already thinking like, okay, some shit's going to go down.
How is this going? How is shit going to hit the fan here on New Year's Day?
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly how it happens, but your mind is already running the tape.
Doesn't her like ass deflate or some shit like that?
So there is a dream sequence beforehand where she's imagining putting on the Demi Moore mask, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank you! Right. You're finally here. We're so happy you're here."
And then you see the reality of it.
Yeah, and then you see the reality, but then she actually does go and show up, which is so weird. You don't do a imagination sequence for something that then happens.
Right.
Like that happens immediately in the next scene.
It's so funny to do that. And she shows up and like to an extent, because like, you know, during the dream sequence, you're like, well, it's crazy that they're all reacting this way, obviously, but also it's crazy the logistics of her like getting there and getting into the studio. Like that would never happen. And then that does happen. She gets into the studio
with the mask,
looking
just
like
a picture, like a printed out picture of Demi Moore that she like,
it's like, I'm normal
on her
face. Have the normal amount of limbs.
Yeah. And then she has, so it's Margaret, I'm assuming, in front. And then it's Demi in her back.
It's an incredible
with her mouth like wide open. Like
it's a full practical suit. I don't know who's in that suit. I don't know how they did it.
It is so cool,
phenomenal.
It looks so good. And then from there, it's just like pure comedy. It's so funny. Like her going out there, not being noticed for a little bit, which is the most obscene creature on earth. And then when they finally notice her, it's just one by one, like women in the audience will stand up and go like, ah!
One at a time.
Yeah, just like, yeah, exactly. It's so funny. So much of this movie,
it's
like
fun.
It started with like the media parodies. It reminds me of like a Tim Heidecker like property.
Yeah.
And that also is, that's like a Tim Robinson thing. It's like baby of the year. This whole
like
sequence.
Fuck you, Bart Harley.
Jarvis. Yeah, like people, standing up one by one, like it's in like the camera movement is the exact same. It's like a zoom in as if the camera operator.
The smash
like,
zooms.
Whoa, what's she about to do?
To be honest, that is what puts this movie over the edge for me. Like that is what makes me want to give this like 5 stars instead of 4.5, because it wants to be fun. It wants to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And as it ratchets up, like when you're talking about the camera work, like when you're following little decrepit Demi Moore trying to go back to the substance like cellar, the camera is like shaking so hard as it's following her through the streets. Like that is something that hadn't happened at that point in the movie. Like you are shifting, the filmmaking conventions of the movie are changing as the character is changing. And by the time we get to Monstro, obviously it's a riot. But there are these very deliberate choices made to let go of any type of like seriousness.
For all of the themes and like the weightiness that the movie has, it is very flippant at the end in a way that isn't like to dismiss all of the things that came before it, but it's just like this is also like we can have fun in this world.
Even the very
we're still
end,
in a movie. This is not a monologue.
The puddle Elizabeth, the little sludge placenta that we end with, like that is ridiculous.
It's so cool. Like the way that she falls apart as a monster, and then what's left, which is just a moving puddle with a face. Like
that is phenomenal.
It is so
good
cool.
shit.
It's so
just
fucking
good shit.
cool.
No, I feel like no other director would want to do that because that feels like something you're just not supposed to do. You're supposed to keep it simple. You can't just keep going and going and going.
And also the directors who want to do stuff like that visually are people making like Shudder originals,
right? That have like a $2 million budget.
Yeah, and like for the most part, like suck. Yeah, but then have really cool visual stuff going on.
Or it's cool visual stuff, and there's absolutely no substance behind it. It's like, damn, that shit looked sick, and that was a lot of fun, and
it had half an idea behind it.
Yeah. Like it has no weightiness to it whatsoever.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm higher than a lot of people I've seen on the movie.
Yeah.
Like I ended up, I think, giving it 4.5, but it's because for all the faults that you can find in it, which you can absolutely find, what are we comparing it to?
Right.
It's
so wholly itself. Like this is very much a one of one movie. I'm not going to see another movie this year.
It's definitely like you can compare it to Cronenberg.
Well,
The Fly, obviously.
But yes, you can compare it to a lot of like really old stuff.
Yeah.
What are you comparing it to right now?
Yeah.
Where it's having a current message and ethos, while having truly throwback, like incredible visuals.
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind are movies that have given me similar feelings, but are completely different. Movies like Parasite and Barbie, right? Like something that feels like, oh my God, here is an exciting new thing.
Poor Things,
definitely. Or Everything Everywhere. It's like things like that I'm just like, those are entirely different movies, but it's that feeling of like, wow, this is the 2020s. Like this is not a movie we talked about earlier this year, like Late Night with the Devil, that's trying to do this retro thing. This could have been that.
No, but it's not, and it's better for it.
Yes, this is like, we are going to do something modern, fully current and modern.
Yeah. But skirting around the modern things of like, how do we put cell phones in the story and stuff like that? But
this is a movie about social media. Like social media is never displayed in the film, in the story.
But it's about like, people don't want to look at this old hag on TV anymore.
The billboard she can't shake.
Physical media, some might say.
Yeah.
Instead of social.
That is part of the idea here, is this barrage, this assault on our senses of like what we're supposed to look like, especially women. Like that is the thing, is like this social media has created this enterprise of beauty standards in the modern world for women.
I did want to say, and this kind of touches especially to the beauty standards thing, something I meant to mention earlier. I think that this is a movie that like it uses and weaponizes nudity in a way that like I have not seen in a movie in a very long time, especially not in a modern movie, because there's always it's the worst discourse on the internet of that comes up like every 6 months of Twitter of like every movie would be better if we didn't show naked women. It's like you cheated on your girlfriend.
I'm
bro.
not allowed
you don't
to
got
look at that.
Yeah,
I'm married.
I'm like you guys need to get more comfortable in your relationships. No, but like here's the thing where it's like this is a movie that it forces you to look at nudity or like soft core nudity to the point that you feel uncomfortable with what you're looking
in a very like not sexual context.
It's in a not sexual way. And even whenever it's meant to be sexual, like it's meant to show you ass and titties of Margaret Qualley on the stage, it's the point where it feels bad. You're like, ew, I'm looking at this, but I feel like I'm looking at Dennis Quaid right now. Like I'm looking at the producers that are watching this and ogling.
Yeah.
Like that is kind of the point of it. Obviously, the scene that people most point to is the actual birth of the substance scene itself, where it is just Demi Moore giving birth
out the back,
Margaret Qualley out the back and everything. And that's something that like can't be illustrated without nudity, but it's stripping out the sexuality behind it. Instead, it feels it's showing it as like a sign of vulnerability.
Right.
It's you have no clothes on, you have no makeup on, you are as stripped down and vulnerable as you can possibly be. You're basically a wild fucking animal out there in nature that's just giving birth to this creature, and it's taking over this other complete side of you. It is now literally taking over your life and your brain.
What I think is even more powerful about that is the juxtaposition of what we're told in the first half of the movie versus the second half of the movie when it comes to, you know, like the idea of whether what we're seeing is beautiful or not. Because Demi Moore's perception of herself when she is about to take the substance for the first time, we're seeing every inch of her naked body. And the context of that scene is to try to tell us that she is going to make this decision because that naked body is not beautiful.
Yeah, because she's disgusted with herself.
She needs to improve it. She needs to look like Margaret Qualley because this current body is not good. And that compared to Monstro is just like, you are gorgeous. You are so that I think is one of the things that needs to be crystallized in this movie is this idea. And I think, honestly, I think it is crystallized now that I'm thinking about it, is the moment where she is so decrepit and she brings out the portrait that she was hiding. She brings it back out and you see it. You see that juxtaposition so obviously displayed. That's like, wow, this body that we thought wasn't enough is so beautiful. So beautiful. This body that you were told needs to be tossed aside, that all sorts of women in Hollywood, when they hit a certain age, are told that they are not worth anything anymore, right? This industry that depends on your physical looks for women becomes this pit of despair, because it's like, oh, you're out, you're done.
Right.
As men, we're actually kind of told the opposite. We're told that as we age, we actually matter more.
Fox, yeah.
You know, and we don't have anywhere close to a similar experience with that aspect of like,
especially if you are like an actress who like was somebody who, like in Demi Moore's case, was somebody who was idealized because of their beauty.
Right.
Like it's not
It was the one
it's
thing
not
you
a
had.
Meryl Streep where it's like, oh, this like ingenue actress who has all this talent and everything. Which, not taking away from Demi Moore's talents and everything, but that's not what society viewed her as. So therefore it was more likely for her to be cast to the side.
And that's why this is like a real true like kismet casting thing, is because even for
it's a little meta.
Even a little,
a lot of, yeah.
It's just even for like the wokest of like film buffs, like Demi Moore is someone who was viewed as, she got to be in a bunch of movies when she was hot, but then everyone figured out that she wasn't actually good. Mm-hmm. And then she wasn't in movies anymore.
for a very long time.
And so for her to come into this, because that happens a lot with actresses when really sometimes the opportunities they're given just kind of suck. And so for her to come into this and just absolutely cook.
Yeah. Home run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, how many actors are given situations where they start out in a movie young because they're hot, but they do not have the juice? I'm not saying this as like a one-to-one comparison, but like if you watch, and I'm sorry for saying this, if you watch early Bobby Patty stuff, he is not like an incredible actor. But the thing is that he was hot.
New Moon didn't do it for you.
He got enough reps because, like anything, if you are an athlete, if you are an actor, if you are a fucking whatever, any job that you have, you need to have reps to hone your craft. Like, and the thing is that's unfortunate for a lot of women is that once you start to not be as perky as you once were or whatever, a lot of those opportunities go away. And so like, you just don't have the same ability that like maybe deep down you are a great actor. You do have a lot of natural abilities, but if you aren't getting those reps, you aren't getting those opportunities that you once had.
And the industry is built around denying them from you.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Then you're just never going to have the chance to become everything that you could be.
And this is also, it's interesting because we're in the middle of like an industry transformation where this is becoming more of the truth for both genders. Not both, but two of the men
more
popular.
You fucking libs.
Two of the more popular. you know what I'm saying though? Like just within the past like 5 to 10 years, I would say it's become more true that youth in men is also valued a lot more than it used to be.
Right.
If you go back to like the 80s, 90s, they're like your average male movie star is like fucking Gene Hackman or whatever.
It's like 40s,
it's like an ugly older man, like a fucking hideous older guy, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's Billy Crystal.
So we're so obviously we still live in a world like a very male dominated Hollywood, in a world where like aesthetically it matters way less what men look like, but like youth in general is being held to a premium way more than ever.
I feel like that's why this movie can hit like a bomb right now.
Exactly.
It's like the perfect
it hits
time.
like a bomb right now, but also like I said, it could have come out this movie would still rock in the fucking 90s even. Like it's just that's why I love it. Like it's a modern story that has almost nothing modern.
There's a timelessness
about it. Yeah. It's a cool movie.
One thing I need to make sure I mention before we wrap up, we're almost out of time here, but I mentioned last episode that it had hit me on a very personal level because of my chemotherapy cancer experience this year. Like just the timing of watching this movie at the end of a 6-month chemotherapy treatment. That idea of 7 days in, 7 days out, that is chemo. Of like literally having to go to get injected with something every week to feel I guess it's inverted because every other time she is injecting it to either feel better or worse. But broadly, that framing of the timeline of 7 days you feel good, 7 days you feel bad. That was my experience the past 6 months. And to see it depicted in this movie and the visceral moments of like the injection of it, to seeing the needle go in and knowing what that is going to cause to the characters in the story, I was like, man, this is insanely relevant to my experience. It was a wild thing to see because, I obviously don't know what it's like to be a woman and to be given this set of expectations of what, beauty standards are, but I know what it's like to feel like your body is deteriorating and like you're having to pull from yourself, like the life out of your own spine to buy more time for yourself later. Like there's all these overlapping feelings with just being like diseased and feeling better, and also trying to understand like what these two different versions of yourself are, and how you are actually one. Like the idea that the version of me that's completely immobile from chemo versus the version that feels amazing 7 days later feels like two completely different people, but they're actually one. So in a very silly movie that ends up being like this wacky body horror thing, it's actually tapping into something incredibly like visceral and real for me. And I don't know if there's many people out there who had a similar experience, but in my case, I was just like totally blown away. I had no idea that was going to be the case.
That could be our new audience, maybe.
Absolutely.
Let's tap in. Let's get.
Well, that's why I want to do the We Live in Time movie, so all these people can hear how.
Should we become a cancer podcast?
That's a crazy interesting perspective, and
I never would have picked up on that either.
Well, that's
something that's like it's a very much like a. In the same way, like the most obvious version of it is like we can view and try to like imprint or like try and guess what the women's experience is in a movie like this. But like something like the cancer experience that you're talking about, anything where you are going through some kind of therapy that is taking you, that is a week at a time, week in, you're in hell, you're poisoning yourself,
and then you feel great.
You feel great is kind of at the crux of what this movie is, like in a very literal way.
It's all, I don't want to say this, but it's almost as if having lived experiences gives you a more dynamic perspective when you are analyzing art. And I don't want to say that because that's bad news for the entire history of this podcast. Especially,
man, when there's like a good movie about like an HR and payroll account manager, like I'm gonna have so many.
Are there any golf movies coming out?
Yeah, as two 20-something white guys over here, like that's the last thing I want to hear.
When's gonna be the great county commissioner's aide movie?
I mean, there's plenty of AIDS movies.
Actually, yeah, there are plenty of AIDS.
But you don't know what I felt watching like Philadelphia.
The Apprentice. Philadelphia.
It's about the real cost of the high, whatever that high may be.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on The Substance? I had one last thing written down. I know that one of your favorite Denis Villeneuve movies is Enemy. Did you get any Enemy vibes from this? Any like doubles, clones?
Yeah.
Vibes from
for
this?
Sure. I definitely clocked Enemy a little bit in there. I could see
there's just so many different ways to read this movie. Like you could go the Freaky Friday angle, you could go like the Cinderella angle,
I thought a little bit about Enemy while I was watching it, and I haven't really thought about it since then, but Enemy does share a lot of DNA, and like that whole version, that's much more of the male side of things, of like this like yearning for this younger, more free side of yourself that can go out, go to all these parties, go sucking and fucking everything else in the world and do this like well-realized
remember version. You are one.
And same thing as The Substance, same idea. Yeah.
I also had Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria written down as a movie that just like in the final stretch just absolutely fucking goes for it. And you're watching one movie and then like right at the end it's like, all right, we're gonna hit the pedal to the gas.
I've heard some Gaspar Noé
definitely
comparisons.
Body Double by the Brian De Palma movie, a little bit of that.
Also, just again, I mentioned it earlier, but just David Fincher, I think, is one of the least like noticeable influences on this movie. But I thought a lot about Gone Girl. I thought a lot about Seven and Fight Club, and just generally like David Fincher's ability to consider every inch of the frame and the intentionality between every second of the movie.
Yeah. Also because especially early in the movie, like all the grosser stuff is shown very clinically. It's not shown in a way that's trying to gross you out. It's just shown as it is, which is gross. And that's a very Fincher thing to do.
Yeah.
I know you hate him, but Nicholas Winding Refn thought a lot about the Neon Demon and Only God Forgives in here.
Fortunately, this movie is better than those.
Right.
So. I mean, I can't state it enough. There's so much Requiem in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, dude,
it's crazy.
The close up of the injection site, that is Requiem.
And it getting like pussier, grosser, and stuff like that over time.
Well, and the old lady who's going insane, sitting and watching game shows.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's very Which, by the way, obviously, I know our boy Darren is. His record is a bit spotty, but if you go back and you watch Requiem, it is a stone cold masterpiece.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
I actually am not. I'm anti late stage Darren because I just think that he's fully lost it, and some people just lose it and they never get it back. But
apparently, Coralie Fargeat said that all those close ups were shot separately. That's how they were able to get the most out of their budget is. They had their actors. They shot all the scenes with the actors, and then later they had
got a prop.
They wrapped all the actors, and then they had a full month of just insert close-ups. So every single time you're cutting to an insanely visceral close-up of the most disgusting thing you've ever seen, that was all shot separately so they could take their time with it.
That's really cool because that's a trick that micro budget horrors do.
Well, it's
micro budget horrors are just we're just gonna spend a week just doing the gnarly shit up close. Yeah.
This movie is approached like it's extremely low budget. You know what I mean?
I'm almost surprised that it's 17 mil, but I mean, it makes every
be a little
more, but
I mean, visually it has plenty going on. It has some hyper it makes sense, but it's just the way that it's approached is majority were in the apartment.
Last one,
it's 3 locations. Really, it's the central thing.
It's the apartment, the bathroom. I would count the bathroom as
the bathroom is its own place.
Yeah.
It's a little sub spot. The stage / that one shining-esque hallway
and
that
the
you walk
streets,
down.
the streets.
Yeah.
I did last one. I wanted to shout out on my little list here. Shallow Hal. The Farley brothers, Shallow Hal, definitely thought a lot about Shallow Hal.
Yeah,
watching The Substance.
She actually said that was her main.
Yeah,
all the other ones, she was like, "Who is David Fincher?" I watched
a lot.
Je suis le Farley brother.
Yeah, a lot of me, myself, and Irene in this one too.
All right. We gotta go. We gotta wrap it up.
Okay.
So Megalopolis. What do you?
Yeah. So
we have to have a great debate.
Someday that
it is crazy that they just injected you with Megalon in your skin during your cancer treatment.
Thanks again, Francis.
Yeah. You actually got shot in the eye too, and they while they were in there just literally 2-in-1.
It's been so hard potting because for the last 6 months, whenever I look at you, I hear a sitar. Near. You
know, when Megalopolis comes out on streaming, we should do a watch along pod. I think that's the move. I think
so. I have to watch Megalopolis again. I have to watch it a second time.
Maybe if I beat you at the
good luck
fantasy film.
We're watching 80 for Brady, and there's nothing you guys can do about it.
All right, thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe, like, and comment, and let us know your thoughts on everything we talked about on this episode, including The Substance. Check out webottommike.net and get every episode in your inbox. Thank you, donors. Thank you, Run P, and all the beautiful sponsors. Patreon.com/webottommike if you want to get involved with making this podcast possible. Next week, we're back to Tom v. Tom with Eyes Wide Shut, 1999, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Should be fun. Last little leg of the series here as the year rounds to a close. And beyond that, little gladiator action maybe.
Let's go.
Good
buzz.
There's a lot of good stuff coming before the end of the year.
We're about to hit FYC season.
Anora, Nosferatu, The Brutalist. Here, any here heads out there?
You and Colin can tag team that one.
Is Friendship coming out? The Tim
that
Robinson
should
movie
come out this year.
Okay.
It got picked up by A24. I feel like it'll probably get dropped in like December sometime because it's not going to go up for like awards or anything. But
I know Drew's first in line for A Complete Unknown.
Oh,
Timmy as Bob Dylan.
They're changing.
hey man, I'm in.
My name is Paul Atreides.
Lil son of Gabe.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.